hear me all right?
Oh, yeah.
Live. On. We are on. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Mormon Stories. This is our second today, Gerardo.
But please, it's the height of white supremacy. It's Gerardo. Okay. Gerardo. From Mexico.
From Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Delin Hansen bout is shaping up to be spicy. Man,
Maybe
there's so much stuff going on in the world,
actually
and
does
this thing comes out of nowhere, man. And
I know. It's like a bunch of interesting shit to talk about, and then Delin goes full retard on
well,
Hansen.
Jacob set it up going full call him out. I don't know what, like full criticism, full ATC activism. What is it? Activism against the church. ATC. What is that?
Activism toward the
ACT?
church, I think.
ATC.
Yeah, I learned that acronym today.
No, I remember. I mean, he started using it in that original talk of the thing.
Yeah. I mean, I remember it now, but
Charles Wagner's ready for some confusion. Do not be afraid, my son, for I am the I at the end of history and the moral arc of history. Blah, 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 blah. Christopher says, my name has I been available to join would be gazed and confused. That's a good one.
I'm just gonna do gay puns from here on out.
I was almost gonna go with prostate haver, but I didn't want to do a whole 3 hours of prostate or penis haver is my name, because that was one of the fun things this week. That
oh man, yeah, I thought that was last week.
No, Natasha Helfer talking about masturbation was just this week, but it's almost boring now. I mean, I was telling you guys I can't listen to it. I can't listen to it very long at all because of the vocal fry is just too much.
Yeah.
But
I should have done Papa Seahorse. Steve was mentioning that. I just posted that article on Facebook about the rare seahorse father who a man giving birth to a baby. Is crazy. It's this crazy news story where a human female gave birth. Wildest thing I've ever heard. I am apostate.
Oh, because he said he was a trans man,
yeah.
And then they made a story of it. Whoa.
Which also, that's not even a new story at this point. I don't know why that story is happening right now, because we've got 1 million of those by this point. I am apostate misgenderer, and that is in reference to Delin had a great moment today where he he said Jacob Hansen might be excommunicated for violating Jesus's policy on being kind, and he tried to say that misgendering is against church doctrine. It was amazing.
Yeah, did he say doctrine? Man, I hate how he doesn't put transcripts of stuff anymore. I was already trying to look for it. I jotted down a bunch of things, but it'd be real hard to go to the exact moments this fast. But I have a feeling that he will take that down, because he got spicy about Jacob, and we could just skip to the last 15 minutes and watch those as soon as Flip gets here. But
oh yeah, his chat was just creaming their pants over that.
He said he was vicious and vile, not like the loving progmos. And the arc of the end of history is long, and you're gonna figure it out, Jacob Hansen. You're gonna figure it out. Oh,
and it always it's crazy that history, according to John Delin, it always just trends in the correct direction. That's what we learned. So here in a few years, when we're all post-apocalyptic, like sex slave and stuff. Not yet. So Forrest pointed out Maven blocks anyone that gives opposition on the chat. We've noticed that before, that Chris and I will get onto a chat and we will both we'll both comment and we can't see each other's
I
comments.
think I'm pre-blocked.
Yeah, I even got on my other account and wasn't seeing. I talked to Uber Mormon, said he went onto another account and couldn't see his chats. I don't know why he would be blocked. I don't think he's ever really gone after Delin, but
he's blocked. Well, Marty's blocked. Marty got.
They wouldn't even let you super chat. Holy shit! I thought of trying.
Do they had super chats for sure?
They had, yeah. Forrest just said that he tried to super chat and it wouldn't let him.
So you got blocked? Like what? Was it in the past or was it today?
You talking about me or Forrest?
No, Forrest. Because I think I've been blocked for a year.
I don't think Forrest. I
don't even waste my time with it very much anymore because I try again and there's just nothing. And the thing is, like, I saw Cultural Hall in the chat there, and I've gone at it with that guy before. Oh, yeah. I don't think he would just ignore me.
No, Uber Mormon. I was talking to him today, and he said that he saw Forrest chats at the beginning, and he said Maven was kind of being combative with him.
Who's the blocking? Which blocker are we talking about?
Forrest is blocked. Forrest is
block on Mormon stories.
Shadow banned on the. Troy said he saw Forrest in there, but Forrest said it after a minute it stopped, like it started blocking him, and then
in the Facebook.
No, in
the live chat.
Delin did a YouTube of Jacob Hansen's video.
Yeah, I only saw you guys commenting on it. I didn't watch it. I watched Jacob Hansen's video itself. It's funny. I didn't comment on it. I should have. Because I wanted to say, like, genuine congratulations, Jacob. This is the first video you've made without a single hypocritical, lying falsehood. You know, like this whole video. This is 30 minutes of good work. Good work, Jacob. And I really mean it.
Well, I don't think he minced words. That, and I get why Delin is saying, "Hey, man, this sounds like criticism. This does sound like activism and all that sort of stuff." And I think there's like little subtle differences, but did you think to pray, Jacob Hansen? I am the voice for the eye at the end of history, and that's referencing John Delin just regurgitated that 3 or 4 times at the end of his podcast, that the arc of history bends towards justice, blah, blah, blah. And you are apostate misgenderer.
Yeah. John Delin made it known that misgendering is against church policy, and that Jacob might get excommunicated for it.
Yeah, like I don't buy that. Like, where's he pulling that from?
I'll tell you where he pulled it from.
He pulled up. He said 3625 of the.
He read the thing, or he had Gerardo read the thing. It was just this. It was stating that members of the church who transition their gender, they can change their name and have their name changed in the actual records, and they can have a note in their thing that says what their pronouns are or whatever, and then it says, and they can go by their name, but it doesn't say they can go by it doesn't instruct you to use their preferred pronouns. It just says,
I don't know, yeah, because the other thing is, like, I mean, because so much of this stuff where, like, people think, like, oh, it's the policy about how their attitude toward members. It's like, no, this is their record keeping. It's their policy about how to not get the name duplicated on the records, you know, like it's as much of that as anything. When you were out, Jerry, because you were out like 10 years later than me, did they still have, like, when you were a missionary? Because when I was a missionary, we had a binder that was printed out at the ward clerk would print us out the ward record list, and there were 2 of them. One of them had all of the ages, and one of them was like semi-redacted and only had children's ages and not adults' ages. But it was funny because, like, I only found that out when I got an award that didn't have the adults, and the clerk was like, "Yeah, policy is we're not supposed to give you the other one." I'm like, "Oh," because every other ward I've worked in they did, but whatever.
Oh. Yeah, I only had just the area book, and it.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, because I wonder now it's probably web-based. They probably log in on their iPad.
That's one of the things that they pulled up in the podcast. They said that bird guy who used to be the cougar mascot, they were able to. Delin has some sort of access to the accounts of the different wards and who has what calling in what ward, and he can pull up and see who that guy and his husband have a calling, and they're active fellowshipped members in the ward as a married couple or engaged. I don't know if they're finally married.
So the Ben versus Destiny thing, I watched like maybe the first hour of it or so, and there was a couple things about that surprised me. One, I thought Ben was going to sound a lot more unhinged because he's been somewhat unhinged lately with the whole Israel thing. He goes a little nuts, but he kept a level head. The other thing that surprised me, and this has just kind of been a while, Destiny seems to, he's like losing his edge a little bit. I mean, he's got a lot going on in his personal life. But he also seemed almost like intimidated.
No, okay,
like
look.
he was a lot more dialed back because he goes hard after Ben Shapiro a lot, and he seemed to have like a lot of respect for him actually.
Destiny, I think, like, well, that's the poker analogy. Like, Destiny was murdering at the 510 no limit, and he got enough attention that he's being invited to the $500 no limit, and like, and he is not up to that jump. He does not have the chops to fight with the big dogs. Like he got a lot of attention because he was really good at basic shitty stuff. But I think, yeah, when you put him in a real fight, like, no.
I didn't listen to any of that one, and it isn't because of Destiny. It is because Shapiro has been annoying me more lately. But maybe
I don't think I've listened to a Shapiro since.
I haven't listened to a whole lot, but I just keep like his Twitter is insane. His
I don't know.
Yeah, just everything's just unhinged and
is it all just Israel?
Yeah, mostly Israel. And I saw that discussion was going to be about January 6th stuff, and that's, I think, right?
Yeah, there was some of it about that.
But I thought the debate with Alex Jones, which was garbage fire, but if you listen to supercut of all the stuff that Glenn Greenwald talked to him about, I think that's kind of some of the best stuff. But what's his argument against history only going better, the arc of history?
Like, is that really like?
Because Lynn said it like 3 times today.
Lynn says that progress always goes in one direction.
They always have this Martin Luther King Jr. quote, which I guess is just, I mean, to use an academic agent term, they say this boomer truth. Like Martin Luther King said it in a speech once, so that's as good as a scripture nowadays. Yeah, but he says arc of because Obama repeated it a bunch. The arc of history bends towards justice or something like that.
I mean, it's a beautiful ideal. It's not real.
Oh, yeah. So Forrest pointed out the Nazis and the communists. That's what Ben Shapiro, that was his argument. He's like, what are you talking about? It doesn't always bend in the right direction. What about the Nazis? Like the 19th century was worse than the 18th century.
For the 20th century,
the 20th century is worse than 19th.
Like at the end, he started ranting and repeated that 3-4 times, and it was almost
the moral arc of history.
Like it might as well have been Jacob saying, "You will get your day of rapture."
Oh yeah,
and it just sounded like the exact same thing in the past. Like, you will see that the eye at the end of history will judge you harshly.
What are you doing?
Just like, I mean, it'd be nice. Yeah, like it would be nice if the arc of history bent toward justice, but it doesn't. It meanders all over the place.
It goes ups and z's and downs, z's and backwards, z's and forwards. And I like what Mary Hansen says, is just even the concept of progress. There's not really progress. Like I also
love the amount of times he talks about the being on the right side of history. I love being told I'm not on the right side of history by people who are like, yeah, let's just put kids on hormones. There's nothing wrong with that. Just do it for whatever reason.
Yeah. What group is it? There's that doctor. One of the LDS, was it Lobsters? Is it LDS Uncensored?
It was Lobsters.
Was it with the doctor who says like, I do hormone treatments on kids?
Yeah.
And geez, there you go. There's one right there.
And
he even said specifically,
I have a clip pulled up from Billboard Chris did like a long presentation on puberty blockers, which, and one of the things that Jacob brought up in that video was some believing member influencer talking about knowing that they were going to put their 3-year-old kid on hormones sooner or later. And Billboard Chris has done like an extensive presentation, although they're all over the place, about what happens to kids when they're put on puberty blockers that early. If kids don't hit Tanner age 2, it's a lifetime of no orgasms. Then they have other issues like major bone problems. Then they have other issues like it's starting to prove out that it's lowering their IQ, putting them on that early.
Yeah.
And that's just the initial stuff. One of the reasons we don't know how bad this is at 30 or 40 is because we don't have those studies yet. But we'll just treat those kids like guinea pigs, and DeLynn will shake his head at you if you don't, as you, the bigot, who's on the wrong side of history.
Yeah. I wonder, we already know the answer because it's not like 30 years after Nazi Germany, a bunch of Nazis came out and said, It's on me. I was wrong. I'm sorry. You know, like, and I just know, like, nobody's gonna come out and say, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry we did this to a generation of kids. They're just gonna find a way to blame it on conservatives anyway. You know, or whatever. Just they'll dare this teapot it. Like, no, I was always against this. What are you talking
How
about?
could we have known? How could we have known?
Yeah,
There were no studies.
See, no,
Yeah,
that's
but
funny.
like, well, like I had that exact argument about COVID policy, where I'm like, all the policies were crap, and there's no good reason to do that. She's like, well, we didn't have evidence. I'm like, no, the evidence is that there was no evidence. Like, that's the reason not to do all the things is because there was no reason to do the things. Like, it's just thing you just said. Like, then they're gonna do that. Like, well, we didn't know. No, the not knowing is the reason you don't do it. That's the reason.
No,
It's one of those things that were brought up by like chemical corporations for years and years and years. Like, there's no proof that if we dump all these chemicals in this water, it will give people the cancers. We don't have the studies. So you dump the chemicals in the waters. You got to prove before that it doesn't cause the thing before you do the thing.
I gotta say, I think that the worst thing that ever happened to environmentalism was Captain Planet. Because that, when I was a kid...
Can you pull your meme up?
When I was a kid, I remember, like, you could have very easily talked me into environmentalism, and then I watched Captain Planet. I was like, this is fucking gay. I'm not doing this shit. Like, the bad guys, they just like, the bad guy rings are like sludge and deforestation. Like, those are their powers that make Captain Pollution. It's amazing.
When you guys, because when I was in public school in Utah in the 80s and 90s, mostly English teachers, but in school, I got propagandized, literally is the word for it, by for PETA. I got propagandized for Greenpeace. I got propagandized for the Sea Shepherd, those doinks. Like, a bunch of these organizations, like, that I realize now, like they're totally like far left Marxist fraud type whole thing. But like, my English teachers, they taught us that. They're like, oh, hey, today's lesson is about, how it's okay to go harass Japanese whalers, But I'm just wondering, because, like, did you guys have any, like, because I know I was in the class with everybody else. Did you guys remember, like, getting propagandized with that shit that really had no business being in schools?
Not as much as I hear about nowadays. There was little bits of it, little stuff of it, but it wasn't so bad when I.
A lot of this stuff is that, like, because at the time I didn't know what it was, because, like, I went 2 times in school. I was invited to Anytown USA conferences, and I was told that they were leadership, like little leadership seminars, and I found out 30 years later or whatever that they are like 100% critical race theory program developed in the 80s and 90s. Because, like, I remember, like, when I learned about critical race theory, I had these little flashbacks, like, oh wait, they said that shit in those weird Anytown USA things I went to.
Well, and stuff's been all over my high school, like, enough that things have hit national news from my high school, but I don't remember it being around like too much back then. But I didn't get involved in like too many like after schooly type things either. Like, I wasn't involved.
Yeah, I did not pay attention during school, so they totally could have tried to, and I shut my brain off any chance.
I remember Captain Planet being on TV, and I actually didn't even know that it had some sort of stupid. I didn't watch it. Like, I only remember the commercials, and so I thought it was just some action hero show for a long time.
I only ever knew that it was propaganda because, like, I think I only ever saw the bumpers because it was on before something I want to watch, and like it, the end of every episode had the little 30-second G.I. Joe vignette. And it would always be about, sorting your recycling or something dumb like that. So that's how I knew the show was just dumb propaganda, because I never watched the show, but I only watched the little bumpers at the end that had the lesson.
G.I. Joe had a bunch of crap at the end of it if you go back and like watch it. But
then now you know.
Yeah.
Transformers had that too. They were like, this kid got knocked off a boat. And he's like, I don't wear life jackets. Life jackets are gay. And he gets knocked off the boat. They're like, now you know. And knowing is half the battle.
What's the...
Wrong, kid. Don't say gay. Say life jackets are ineffective. That's I'd like the whole thing of like correcting people on their language to give them wrong advice about the... like, no, don't say life jackets are gay. Say life jackets are ineffective and don't work. Have a
That's
nice
all,
day,
kids."
kids. And then like flight off.
Are you guys? So Dan blocked me on Twitter. It took very little. It took very little to get blocked by Dan on Twitter. Are you guys?
I think I'm some sort of because like I comment on his thing and I never get. He never.
Yeah, because and like you say snacky
I'll
stuff.
be like fast on there too.
I've done snarky stuff. I've gotten a couple responses from him even, and which I'm shocked by. He blocked me on Facebook right away just for saying that I don't believe in the power dynamics definition of racism.
I had one interaction with him on Facebook, which was I leaked him to like a clip of Thomas Sowell and said Thomas Sowell explains in this clip why you're wrong about X or whatever it is.
Oh, that day on
and
Facebook, I got blocked on Facebook and
I got blocked on Facebook. But yeah, no, like I think so. I responded to a couple of his things with Jonathan's Philosopher King meme that he made for him. But the last one, I think, like, because that thing's like, I know I must have touched a nerve because, like, it was something where, like, he was responding to some Mormon talking about the new PR guy having pronouns in the bio. And, you know, and Dan says, you know, blithe rhetorical prophylaxis, blah, blah, blah. You know, there's nobody saying anything by putting their pronouns in their bio. And I replied, you know, like, putting one's pronouns in your bio presupposes the supernatural and metaphysical claims of queer theory. And I said, you know this, but you're a lying hack and you're playing hide the ball.
That's where you went up. I think you took the wrong coin at Albuquerque back then. So Jared made this meme of him. What did all those words say? People can't see it on the screen.
Oh yeah, it just says it's the 5 Captain Falcon or Captain Planet rings. It's credentialism, progressive moral posturing, galaxy brain, smug demeanor, and rhetorical prophylaxis. I am a linguist.
Watch
he was on
lively Utah far right propaganda.
Utah just passed that anti-DEI bill.
And it's funny because like when you read the like what does the bill do, it's like it just reinforces that you can't discriminate on the basis of race, sex, gender, or sexuality. It's like it's literally just doubling down on the law.
That's the funniest thing is that lefties who are constantly like hawking MLK Jr. stuff.
It's reaffirming
like,
what 1964
don't pass
said.
this bill that says to not discriminate based on race.
Yeah. According to the legislative text, banned DEI practices would include maintaining any policy that promotes differential treatment in employment status or program participation based on personal identity characteristics like race, sex, religion. So now in Utah, we have this thing passed that just says what the Civil Rights Act 64 says. Assert in trainings or procedures that individuals with one personal identity characteristic are inherently superior, privileged, oppressed, or culpable for past actions because of their personal identity characteristics.
That's just a reaffirmation of the first article of faith. Like, we are responsible for our own sins and not for Adam's transgressions.
Is that the second?
Or is the second one? Oh, maybe it is, yeah.
Because I mixed that up in the past and got corrected by a Mormon.
It's one of the things that drives me nuts about these people, just how, like, Old Testament biblical they are. Like, they literally believe that we should be punished for the father's sins. Like,
yep. And then I had some Mormon bring up to me that, like, no, look at these guys. They got punished 7 generations unto 7 generations for their father's sins. I'm like, okay. Well, I guess that's why I left.
Yep, I'm not a Mormon.
Wallow in yourself flatulation. Requires statements of an individual's position on DEI initiatives or topics like anti-racism and critical race theory before taking action in regards to employment, admission, or state financial aid, among other things. Carries the title Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. That third one is the one that they said it isn't happening, and then when people proved it's happening, said it is happening, but it's good. All over Twitter. But they were more obsessed with that this week than other stuff. Besides Dan saying things like the abortion stuff is a baby's not a baby. Well, the Bible said the baby's property and not human until it's born, or other crap like that.
Look,
this week.
If a woman blithely wants to kill her child.
This guy here doesn't like to be called a progmo like Dan. Like, oh my gosh, it's just so bad we call it progmo. And so he went on. I mean, that might have been the main thing I focused on tonight was when Jim Bennett was on with Cardin.
I didn't
just
see
there.
that.
I thought one of the more interesting things on that is like he reveals that he knows that new what's the guy's name? Sheridan, whatever guy.
Yeah.
And I look at him like This guy just reveals that there's totally like a progressive clique up in upper Mormonism that hangs out, chills, knows each other.
Wait. What? Has nobody yet talked about the deep church?
The deep church state.
There's deep doctrine. Now there's the deep
doctrine state. Well, they talk about what are the secret combinations or something like that, right?
Did you see that thread? I think I sent it to the group. I found like this full thread of people just being like, "Wait, who's this Jim Bennett guy? I'm already blocked." Like it was. There's
a bunch of people pre-blocked, and I don't know why.
It was Jacob Hansen put something. Jacob Hansen put something up about him. He was basically just retweeting that, and everybody's like, "I don't know who this guy is. I was gonna go check him out, but we're already blocked." I was like,
"I know what it is. Is anybody who's
Mormonism."
I think he said it before. It's anybody who's tweeted the word Desnat at all ever is pre-blocked from him.
But a lot of people that tweet the word Desnat are shitting on it.
Yeah.
That's totally reasonable. That's great work there.
It says, folks, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you have to watch Jacob Hansen's Wait, can anybody do a Jim Bennett? Folks, I can't believe I'm saying this, but you have to watch Jacob Hansen's latest video. This is a man in absolute panic mode. This is a man marinating in fear. This is a man who knows what's coming and
bullshit is
going to leave the church when it arrives.
I just hate that gaslighting bullshit. Like, he's not panicking, you fuckers. like just right there, like the way you try to mischaracterize it like that. He's not panicking. He's more measured and rational about this than he has been about most things he talks about. Like, it's just so honest, ridiculous.
What are we in? We're in the last general conference was October. If you remember, they reaffirmed the proclamation last October. And a bunch of people went around dunking on Jim Bennett about that reaffirmation, kind of almost making this tweet his direction. And if every couple months we can see this hot dang smack you, you're going to leave, I can tell you're leaving thing, one direction, then the other direction, then one direction, then the other direction. I think you got a little bit of an issue there of there really is a mixed message going on from the toppity top guys.
No, but there 100% there is.
Yeah. But this is Jim Bennett, because this is the guy once again who announces to us that he's ostensibly here on the social media showing us how to have good and proper conversation.
He is our shining beacon.
He's the guy who came out of his seat at General Conference when Russell M. Nelson said you need to act more Christ-like on the think celestial, act more Christ-like on the internet. Yes. And then he's down in here. I mean, there's
balls.
So much projection because there's so much in here of like people saying wheat and tares, and it's like, how do you know that you're not the wheat and you're the tares and you're this? You're the guy who came out of your chair when they said stop acting like a dick on social media. And here they are. You know?
Plus, there's like a 75% chance that didn't even happen because he was tweeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, though,
so his election, whatever he was running for, did that election happen?
Oh, I think it did. Did he win?
Must not have.
Fingers crossed.
Sandy City Council.
I care so little about elections.
There you go. Council members.
It's your
my phone number, whoever had my phone, whatever my phone number that I have now, I've had for many years now, but it must have belonged to a couple of middle-aged Democrat women, because I'm on a lot of Democrat mailing lists and I get texts, and I don't mind because I mean, I don't even harass them. Like, I just answer them totally honestly, and it's enormously entertaining for me because they get all twisted up.
Elect Jim Bennett to Sandy City Council. I thought the vote was in November, and I don't see.
And Dildo Dan, because
he ran twice for Utah Senate.
He didn't run
November 21st. So how do we find out the results?
Mm-hmm.
Email Jim.
Contact Jim directly. Fuck yeah.
Blocked. How much you want to pay? You're just blocked.
Somehow your phone number is already blocked.
Let's see here.
Blocked. Everyone's blocked.
Do you guys want to start watching the Lynn rant while I try to find out if he got elected or not? I'm guessing he didn't get elected, or they would have announced it on there, right?
Yeah, no, we would have. I think we would have known. Lynn would have said something about it.
Dean King.
McClellan.
Jim Bennett. I don't know. He's like Lugo from in Labyrinth. That's what it is. Jim Bennett. Dean King. Let's see.
Oh,
I thought I had the Lynn stuff pulled up. I guess I didn't. Mormon stories. There's so much in the middle worth covering. I mean, I guess I kind of wrote those down, so maybe we'll just listen to the ending rant overall. But
yeah, I'm curious because I didn't hear it. I didn't listen to any of it, but I probably should have, because it probably would be interesting.
Well, if you had to guess, what would you say there's some of the things he takes issue with?
I mean, well, he's probably annoyed by the whole concept.
Yeah, he basically does this thing where he basically has to stop every 20 seconds and tell people that I'm literally shaking right now, and I apologize for how emotional I'm getting.
No, like, because it
I've just seen people suffer so much.
You know, like I said, that, like, you know, how, like, this was Jacob being exactly right about everything for 30 minutes. Like, I can see how that would set off the Lynn. Like, because what's he going to actually, you know, he's going to have to really scrape and dig to find objections, because Jacob Hansen has a point. Like, the church is the church. It has doctrines. And like I like to say all the time, the religion of queer theory and the religion of Mormonism are incompatible. It's that simple. You know, like,
Bennett
I'm a First Amendment tolerance guy. If you want to be Mormon, you can be Mormon. If you want to be queer, you can be queer. You got to keep it out of the state and my job. And there you go. It's fine. Be my guest. If you want to be a queer Mormon, then you're going to have that fight yourselves. But
gonna be tricky.
Jim Bennett took third place
out of 3.
Out of 4.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Who did worse than Jim Bennett? Is it a literal Nazi? Was the guy running as Desnet?
Says Cardin Ellis Ryden. Oh no. Brooke Christensen.
That was good joke.
Cindy Sharkey beat him. She doesn't even have like a web page.
What kind of person is a Cindy Sharkey?
I don't know. She didn't have a web page. He had a big old web page and everything. He's got a big old deep state web page. She doesn't. This is who beat him. This lady. So we finally have a female leader of the Sandy City Council, just like we have the community of Christ.
Jim was trying to take that away.
It looks like the same lady, if I'm not mistaken. The same lady.
It does look like the same lady. The prophet, you mean?
Speaking of that, once again, this is one of the things that drives me so crazy. Like, they're talking about, like, Jacob has cognitive dissonance going on here. I go nuts that on Monday first, I listened to Delin, RFM, and Bill Real talk about how great that this lady is now a prophet, so she can be the liar. Like what all the rest of you guys' stuff is about how all these Mormon prophet people are liars or whatever, and it's all a manipulation. But
yeah, no, and
women are perfectly capable of being lying, manipulative abusers.
And so somebody up here asked, like, why can't somebody with no weenus get baptized? Here's something that maybe like Jacob Hansen wouldn't answer to that, because maybe that person, the best place for them to be isn't over at the Mormon church. Like, yeah, maybe you guys all should just stay separate, like non-aggression principle. Like, if you think that should be part of your life and homosexuality should be part of your life, get away from it. Get away from it. Like, if you still like Mormonism, start your own. Like, get away, because that thing's not good for you.
If you really, 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 really believe in the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints, right? That's your religion. And you just feel inside that you just have a sinful desire whether it's to be the opposite gender or you're a kleptomaniac. That's your cross to bear. That's what church is all about.
If you believe the things they say, or if you don't
believe in it, then
get away
pick up your
from
cross. Yeah, and that's the thing is because like that's what's pissing me off about so many of these the activist ex-Mormons who are like, I left because of the gay stuff. Then you didn't believe the church, and which is fine. I've got nothing wrong with leaving the church because you didn't believe in it. That's why I left.
Oh,
but
hey,
the fucking audience.
We're trying to sort out the cognitive dissonance here.
Hey,
yeah,
like
my message to transgender Mormons who are having difficulty fitting in with the church with their personality, leave the church. You don't have to be Mormon. It's
not
optional.
only do you not have to be Mormon, is like if that's gonna be you and your world and your stuff, you will do better away from it. Go away from it, and they will do better. Like
hey,
away
do you
from
want,
you.
Jacob wants. Hey, Jacob wants to jump on. Do you want me to send him a link?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Cool.
Nobody tell him what I said. I don't want him to know that I said nice things about him.
He's like, careful, nobody. We were just about to watch this. You want to watch the rant with us?
Yes.
Can we give a definition of what cognitive dissonance is? It's holding two completely contrary ideas in your head at the same time and kind of not being aware of it. And as you're going around, not being aware of it, you know, so not being aware of it supposedly like rips up your psychology, makes it goofy and all that stuff.
It's also at this point ex-Mormon jargon.
Troy says Jim Bennett seems to think a change is coming from his Jacob tweet. This is a man who knows what's coming and is likely going to leave the church when it arrives. But that's like, I could have said that about Jim Bennett 3-4 months ago when he knows that they're going to ultimately stand with the other thing and he's not going to get what he hopes for. I think the church handbook allows for basic ordinances for most LGBT folks under basic conditions, but they still currently draw lines around sex-based roles. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't
really which isn't a big difference. Like that's not a change necessarily. Like that's kind of how it's always been.
Yeah, if they gave a baptism to somebody who's like that, I mean, I don't think that's the wildest thing.
I don't think the issue is with them baptizing a trans member. I think the issue is with them like having a male on record as a female. And having like they had strict rules with which missionaries could be in which space, like we couldn't be alone with a woman. They generally wanted the sister missionaries to do it unless we brought another adult with us. And that's a big deal. But this trans member that they taught, they had the sisters teach him alone. And Jacob mentioned that in his video. And Dylan did that thing, of course, where he's like, do you really think Jacob cares about women's spaces? And of course, they don't possibly think that anybody who holds this bigoted opinion could give a shit about women's spaces. They're just pretending to be, virtuous in order to get their bigoted point across.
Dang it.
What?
Sorry.
Is this the latest round?
Yeah, I'm showing some of the image while we're waiting for Jacob, or maybe I should start listening to the rant while we're waiting for him. But
so wait, while we're waiting for Jacob, can somebody get a line on Kwaku and let's do an ambush thing where we don't tell either of them that the other one will be there?
Well, that's just it. Is like Dylan said that he thought that Jacob was attacking Kwaku in the video. I don't think he was attacking Kwaku there. I thought he was saying that Kwaku was asking a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just gonna assume that Dylan gets everything weird and backwards and wrong because Dylan, everything he says comes from Blue Cathedral basis, so you're just bound to say dumb shit. Like you can't not say something stupid when your foundation is stupid.
All right, let's watch this for a bit till he gets here.
Right, but
maybe he's seen the rant now. Like.
Yeah, I'll just add Jacob Hansen that you're so confident, you're so strident on your YouTube channel and on the internet. You talk as though you've like been around for 12 minutes and like you haven't been paying attention and you don't know anything about your church's history for the past 1 or 2 centuries. Like, oh my gosh, the church is making a change. Have you heard of dynastic sealings that men used to be sealed to men in the early years of the church? Have you you know, have you heard of the 1890 manifesto where polygamy was ended? And then did you know that for the next 10 or 15 years, have you ever heard of post-manifesto polygamy? Did you know that after the church told the world that it was stopping polygamy, that it kept practicing it for another 15 years until they had to issue a second manifesto? Like, have you ever heard of your own history? Do you not realize that the first presidency, the Mormon Church first presidency, signed multiple doctrinal statements saying that the curse of Cain and the priesthood ban on black members was doctrine until it reversed it in 1978, and then later said it was just a policy change?
This one's great because what you're missing out on here is the live chat, because when he's flipping out, there's just a bunch of vapid retards in the chat. But, oh my God, go off. Like, oh, mic drop.
There's a little bit of karma here, because one of my biggest complaints about Jacob, and I told him directly
on the stream now, but let's listen to more of it right there.
With the mega, the mega.
Oh wait, that's not the win anymore. No.
Oh, he's doing the walking around live thing.
What's happening?
What's up, my bigots?
That's not a church.
Don't use a hard T.
So did you get to watch? Have you seen it yet? Have you?
Did you even know about the 1890 manifesto? Did you even know, Jacob? Did you
know
that
the
the church
Mormons practice polygamy?
Did you even know the church has changed?
Just
once?
Just FYI, I'm in the middle of like putting kids down to bed, so this might be the weirdest like live stream guest thing that you guys have ever done.
Yeah,
because I may have to like cut out and like yell at kids and stuff.
Wait a second. So we got to like have, oh, I guess you could yell at kids, but I was thinking you're going to have to be quiet and stuff. So we got the Lynn on one side doing a full Hulk Hogan promo, and on your side, we got you.
Jacob, show us your 72-hour kit. Show us your storage. I want to see your 50-pound. I want to see your 5-gallon drum of barley.
I could go out to my garage. I have
it's in a garage.
Just FYI.
So how much?
That is Reno. I was like, what is that? Like, that's what, $700 a month in Reno for a place like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, right.
I broke down.
You want to know what
Sparks, Nevada
garbage? The market here in Utah. I went looking at that. That's hot garbage.
You were wrong to sell your house for all that money.
I know, I was an idiot. But
you're like, wow, look at all this money. And how stupid were you?
I went looking at buying houses recently, and I'm like, oh my goodness, stuff's in trouble. But anyway, how much you listen to Delyn's Hulk Hogan rant on?
I think I'm about 30 minutes in, and
so you haven't gotten to the end.
You haven't gotten to the end,
dude.
My joke doesn't even land,
dude. I am laughing hysterically at some of the things he's saying.
Well, the stuff about like your eyes being red and
policy to misgender.
You're panicking. Look at this man panicking.
Oh, that's
I'm in sheer panic mode, guys.
Like he said he's putting his kids to bed. He's actually gathering them all into a safe room, and he says, "Kids, we can't come out. The gays are coming."
You're asking him too many questions at once. Have you seen Jim Bennett's comments yet, too?
Oh my gosh! He blocked me obviously a while ago.
Who isn't blocked?
I know.
What are the chances that Jim Bennett has blocked more Mormons than non-Mormons?
Totally. For sure, 100%.
We just barely found out that he came in third in his election.
Dude, here's the deal. Jim Bennett is I've been around politicians my whole life. My parents are actually both elected officials, but they're actually, ones that have integrity.
Clear.
Dude, you have no idea how many like low-level loser politicians there are out there who are just like trying to get attention. And Jim fits the mold of that. I'm sorry. It's it's kind of pathetic.
I was like, I remember when I was a little kid, I used to be like, I was really impressed by lawyers and politicians. Like, and then like with each one, like you meet one, you're like, oh, well, clearly they're not all like that.
It's like Thomas Sowell says, like the benefit of going to Harvard is never having to be impressed with anybody from Harvard ever again. Same thing with meeting politicians. So this is Bennett saying that you're marinating in fear.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. Now, obviously, like there are things that I bring up in the video that are like, hey, like we gotta sort this out. Okay, like this is obviously everybody knows that this is like weird things are going on that we can't make sense of, because it isn't that I'm contradicting the brethren. It was me literally saying, here, look at the clips of what the brethren actually say. Like, I don't know what that's like. That's me being like, no, like, what's going on here?
Influencers and stuff that said the stuff that were. I mean,
but I mean that's thing we've said all along about you, Jacob. Because like it's funny, like we think it's so funny that you catch flack for being Orthodox. Like you are just.
Oh no, I'm not
an Orthodox Mormon.
I'm not just an ordinary Latter-day Saint. I am a hardcore fundamentalist, far right, desnat. You know, just,
no, exactly.
No, but fundamentalist a few times.
Which is to say, like, just a regular believing, present day believing Mormon. Like that's what what you've
like
become.
It's almost like they're using language to structure power.
Whoa, where'd you learn those words? You didn't go to college. You can't say that stuff. It's only true if you have lambskin to wave around in people's faces.
So did you see him like do all the stuff? I mean, we pull this crap too on the Lynn, but like he stops and pauses your face at certain times and says, "It looks like he's so sad and mad and fiery angry here." And
look, obviously, like I have concerns about this, and I want to convey what I think a lot of people are feeling, because there are a lot of people that are just like, "Wait, this doesn't make sense." And my thing is that I have full confidence that the church will make sense of it, that they'll sort this out. But I think that we need to get more clear about things. Like, I think like we have doctrines that are very clear and that are like, that's why I quoted the brethren in general conferences speaking, but it's the disconnect between that. I made this follow-up video. I don't know if many people have seen that one, many have.
The Elder Holland one, yeah.
Elder Holland. And that is the glimpse into what I think is actually going on behind the scenes. He's saying, look, you know what we're doing behind the scenes, everybody? We are trying to figure out how far we can go to welcome these people without crossing the doctrinal lines. And that's a good goal. I think that's a good goal. That's the right.
So when Kwaku was asking that question, because I don't know if you got into this part yet, but the Lynn thought you were calling out Kwaku, and that it was undermining Kwaku, and Kwaku would be shocked to see that you were calling him out. Yeah. And I thought you were just kind of more just showing Kwaku asking the question of like, why is everybody talking this way?
As if Kwaku needs help being undermined.
well, it's what it is it's Kwaku's pointing out the obvious implication that people are going to make. They're going to say, wait a minute, guys, if it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck. And I'm going, hey, do you see how this is confusing people? I'm not saying that it's going to change, like people like Jim Bennett are saying. I'm saying, but you guys sure seem to be giving that impression. So let's be mindful of that, because confusion will create division. And I think the thesis of the video is that you want to know why we're all divided in the church? There's more division now in the church than ever. Well, it isn't Trump. It's these issues primarily. It is primarily because there are a significant number of the church who have a very different vision of what the future of the church is going to look like. And so they're not working. We're not even working in the same direction. We just are at odds.
This is what's scary about it for me, because I think there's a lot of problems going on here. Because like for me, the solution is simple. Like if I had a line to the church, which I don't, because ironically they threw me out for having consensual sex with an adult woman that I foolishly married. And fast forward to me defending the church against the gays, but whatever. But it's very simple. The Mormon religion is incompatible with the queer theory religion. It's just that simple. Yep. Like, because the church's message is, you are welcome. Our whole thing is Jesus Christ died for everyone. He restored his church. This is what it is. Come and be a part of it. And that's what that is. And if you're a gay Mormon, take up your cross and walk. Like I was actually thinking about this earlier, and I made the analogy. It's like, the way the church sees it is like being gay is a sin and stealing is a sin. And there are people who are kleptomaniacs that are like have a psychological compulsion to steal. If you're a Mormon and a kleptomaniac, you don't throw up the church over and say, how dare you make the rules.
Here's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing with the transgender thing. Like, I don't have a problem with someone who is quote unquote. Well, first of all, I don't like that people are talking about transgenderism as though it is a thing. Yeah. These are men, and that's why I specifically said that in the video. This is a man, because
they called you.
I'm not. You're right. I'm not going to use the language. I'm going to say that we have a man who dresses like a woman, who is lying about his gender, refuses to repent of that lie prior to his baptism. And there is a question here. Why is it that if you're a member and you decide to lie about your gender, that you can't go to the temple? But that implies a sin. Well, if you're going to get baptized, you're supposed to repent of these sort of obvious sins that you're committing. And so there's a question of, is like, if a person has to give up coffee and smoking before they get baptized, don't you have to give up your false claims about your gender and reverse your social transition? Because if a member transitions, we would say you need to repent of that and go back and reverse your social transition. Why don't we have that same requirement? So if someone gets baptized beforehand, then they don't have to?
But this is what's the problem with this is because queer theory is a critical theory. Critical theory is neo-Marxist, and Marxism works through entryism. This is where I think that is a very difficult problem for the church, which is the problem with a lot of institutions, is it's run by a lot of very old guys. And like just trying to talk to just trying to explain to my dad this stuff, like, do you just understand the barrier? Because, obviously, like, for one thing, they play this Mott and Bailey where they're like, this is about respect, where it's like, okay, you say that now, but the problem is I've read your books. I've read your scriptures, and I mean your queer theory scriptures. I've read your queer theory scriptures. This isn't about respect. This is about dismantling systems of power, and you consider the church to be one of those systems of power.
Like, and seeping in through your
fool me, and I'm not even in your damn church.
Using your goodness against you to get in on you.
Did you see what John said about Jacob? If Jacob is a good Mormon, then he'll value kindness. Yeah. And it was funny about not using the pronouns and quote unquote misgendering him. No, guys, I'm not misgendering him. I'm actually gendering him correctly. But here's the thing. I don't value kindness over everything. I value truth over kindness. And that's what a Christian does.
I feel like the worst piece of it, I've talked about this a bunch. I feel like the worst piece of advice we were ever given growing up, and it was very common, was if you don't have anything nice to say, then don't say it at all. I hate that piece of advice because I feel like niceness is like at least 10 or 12 ranks down the priority list, right? Because I'd say if you have something to say and it's not true, then don't say it. But if it's true, then maybe say it. And if it's not useful, maybe don't say it. But if it's useful, then maybe say it. And if all of those other criteria can be satisfied and you can be nice, then go for it. But it's literally impossible to be truthful and nice with a lot of these people. It's completely impossible to because the way to be nice to them is how they define how you be nice to them. And the only way they want you to be nice to them is by telling them, yeah, I am. You are a woman. You're a real woman. And I agree with that, but then I'm not being truthful. So you have to choose between truth and niceness. And who in their right mind would tell you to choose niceness?
John Dehlin is like, because Jacob, you're a dickhead, but you're not unkind. That's
it. Yeah, that's true. You are actually kind.
Jordan Peterson, real quick, I want to make this point. Jordan Peterson said something that it is a tweet that hit me harder than any other tweet has hit me maybe ever. He said, by than saying that a man can be a woman, and once you swallow that camel, you will never choke on anything ever again. And that's why they want you to believe it, because because he said you only have to sell your soul to the devil once. And I realized in that moment, that's why I care about this issue. It's because it's a litmus test for if someone actually values truth. When a person is willing to say that a man is a woman, you show by your actions that's so absurd, but you say it. That means you're not interested in truth. And when someone's not interested in truth, like what?
Yeah.
And
that's the we mentioned it.
Like of all places, the church is the place where you're supposed to have people who value the truth.
Yeah, well, we mentioned at the end, John's very confident that you are going to be on the wrong side of history on this one again, just like so many of the progmos are. That 20 years down the line, just because the Mormon Church caught up to this and that and the other Civil Rights Act, whatever, that they're going to catch up to this and start transing their kids 20 years from now. And I listened to the whole entire thing, and that's my joke of my name here is I'm the voice for the eye of end of history. But these guys claiming that they are pretty sure they're going to be on the right side of this one and history will judge you harshly. I don't know where they get that confidence, although he was screaming out about how dare you be so confident when us activists are always right.
I'm just curious where he what moral standard he's using to determine what the right side of history is, because I have a funny feeling. So ironically, I was teaching my my seminary class this morning. I teach seminary, and we're talking about the Great and Spacious Building. The Great and Spacious Building.
Are you talking about your house? Because like you've got a polygamous-sized basement there, man.
We're in Utah, where it's all California prices now. We're all crammed in.
Like lifestyles of the rich and famous over here. With
I'm just walking back and forth. It looks like I'm walking in a lot of places. I'm really just walking back and forth. Anyway, but here's the thing. I was talking about the Great and Spacious Building. And the Great and Spacious Building, what is the thing about it? It doesn't have a foundation. It's floating in the air. If John DeLynn is in his big Great and Spacious Building wagging his finger at me, you know what I like to do? I point at the fact that he doesn't have a foundation under his feet.
Yeah.
The guy's talking about being on the right side of history. It's like, according to what standard, bud? Like, where do you come up with?
What does history even matter anyway?
Have you even heard of empathy, Jacob? He's on the empathy side. That's what he stands.
I love.
Let me ask a question.
I don't value empathy like he does, and you shouldn't. And by the way, who says that empathy is the god? If I was a godless heathen like him, I'd be like a Roman, dude. I'd be like, screw it. Like, let's dominate. And this is all just a power game anyway. So screw this. I'm going to do everything I can to dominate you and everyone else and basically hook up the people I want to hook up. And I don't like you, John. So that's who I would be if I wasn't a Christian.
Let me ask one of the tougher questions that he did ask, which kind of goes in line with the thing that Flip mentioned, is that, so I believe that you and Quick and other people do a service by pointing out to people the type of entryism that Flip was talking about, and people playing on niceness, playing on their good intentions for another group of people that have labeled out in their writings and works of how to manipulate this to get in and break into and change and cause revolution on institutions and stuff like that. But DeLynn asks, hey, how dare you go imagining that whatever leadership of the church needs this service? Do you think, and myself, I can say pretty easily, like, I do think that they need to see the entryism or maybe have somebody, because I mean, I think they take PR advice from PR professionals and that sort of deal. But like, I think that, I'm not saying they're completely unaware, but I don't know how aware they are of this type of entryism that happens. And I think that you and Quick do offer a service. But DeLynn's question is shouldn't you leave that to their, don't they have some sort of like religious divination that should keep them from that sort of a secret combination or something like that?
I think our leaders have even said good revelation is good based on good information, right? If I don't have, like, if I'm trying to seek, if I'm just totally lost and I don't have any information at all, it's going to be hard to sort out things. I don't believe that like there's a ton of baked in assumptions about what he thinks about revelation. Like he was talking about like, oh, well, why don't they just like get on the phone to Jesus? It's like, you guys, if you still have that level of Mormonism, like, yes, congratulations, you debunked it. Way to go, guys. Like, you debunked me when I was a freaking primary kid. Like, people understand is like, I have a much broader conception of revelation, and I know for a fact that these men, I have a deep testament they're inspired, but that doesn't mean that they just arbitrary, like there's no involvement with them. Not even our scriptures support that. What's the whole idea of pondering and trying to figure it out yourself? Like, we're supposed to be involved in this. God isn't going to sit here and just spoon feed us all the answers. Are we not supposed to be involved in the fight against evil and the fight for truth? And if God just spoon feeds everything to us, then we don't figure it out. And I do think
I'm involved for the fight against evil and truth. I donate to Mormon Stories. That's how I fight for truth and against evil.
You donate? Have you ever donated to them?
Oh, hell no. No, like that's thing I can say is because, like, I mean, part of it's because, you know, I've just always been poor, but like I volunteered my time for Lindsay Park at Sunstone, but I've never given any of these clowns any money. So
yeah. So yeah, he calls you out and says that he can have you on, but I think he slipped in a caveat into that. And I think
he doesn't mean it.
He slipped. Well, I mean, because that's one of the things that this whole channel started and probably wouldn't exist if he just at one point said, hey, we might bring on some conservative leaning whatevers. Give us your shot. Talk to us. And we went and tried to talk to them. They just stonewalled us, shut us down, and like launched us, like kicked us back out and spit us out type deal.
Yeah.
And didn't even like acknowledge us. And we were just mentioning tonight, I think your brother got shadow banned on there because he was trying to comment. Jared and I think we're long shadow banned from commenting on there.
So banned.
It's just not even worth doing it. And it's like, he can build a fortress of protection of never having to answer this stuff. And he mentioned at the start that he never wanted to try to mention your name on the show or platform you or all that sort of stuff. But at the end,
John
I think in his
Peterson.
rant, he accidentally asked you on, but then I think he put in a caveat, but he's got to have gone apostate or have been excommunicated or something.
Once he's excommunicated or apostatized, I'll have him on to tell his Mormon story.
Once he's on my side, we can have him on our show.
Yeah, we can talk about how bigoted and foolish he used to be before he was correct, like me.
I think I heard that caveat, but at the same time, you can still, I think there's room for you to say, hey, you said we could have like a civil conversation about this. Where is it? And
but have you even heard of the second endowment?
He'll feel he has to do it or something. But
you guys want to say hi to my wife?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's cute, huh? Dixie, sorry. What was the question one more time?
The question is, are you going to try to take up that even though we think he gave himself an out card, are you going to try to take that up? Are
you kidding me? I'm freaking putting that on my channel, and I'm doing a full-blown acceptance, a full video just saying, John, I'm here, buddy. Let's do it. Now, here's the thing, he will not do it.
I doubt it.
Here's the thing with John.
We know from personal experience they don't mean it.
John was angry in this video.
Yeah, he'll take it down, I think.
He doesn't like me. Like, there's a visceral reaction about me. And you want to know why, in my opinion? It's because he is afraid of me. Because John has never had someone on his show that could rip him into 10 ways from Sunday and expose what an absolute fool he is in front of his audience. But he will, and the thing is I think somewhere he knows that.
I'll give you 4 ways. 6 of those ways aren't really good ways. I'll give you 4 ways.
Well, so the closest he had, the worst he's been to a guest was Rod Meldrum, right? And Rod, I was talking about this earlier. Rod's deal was that he was like, I think he came into it thinking that it was going to be a civil conversation. He came into it thinking that the people that were talking to him were going to be good faith interviewers, and they absolutely weren't. They treated him terribly, and they insulted him and told him how bigoted he is and stuff like that. But he tried the whole time to maintain the whole professional atmosphere, and he tried to even be nice to that. He refuted him. He's not a dumb guy. He's smart, and he would refute him on a lot of things that they said.
He was totally gracious, and he smiled through everything. And like just did his best and like held his ground. And like the most hilarious thing is that like this caused Kara to have like a life-changing emotional breakdown because a nice smiling man said things she didn't agree with. Because like that thing's like I think he's wrong too, but like to treat him like he's some kind of bad person.
And he's wrong, but he clearly looks to me. He looks like a good man, and
we couldn't even hear his point of view to know he's wrong because first he had to announce himself as a bigot before they could even talk about anything he believed.
Yeah, they tried to get it. They're like, "Hey, would you admit that Brigham Young is a bigot?"
I hope they go that route. I hope they go the route
because
they're trying to be like, Jacob, do you believe that you should misgender people? And I'll be like, no, of course not. That's why I refer to that guy as a man.
Yeah. So it would get caught up in that because he also has the audience
why are you guys
capture.
Misgendering people?
He has the audience capture that he has to challenge you on things in front of that audience, or he's platforming somebody that he should not be platforming and whatever. You know, that old
I hope he does.
Pony show.
Oh, that would be wonderful.
To believe that misgendering is a concept.
Here's the one thing I would want to avoid. And this is what I actually think he would do if he's smart, because Bill Reel will reach out to him if he does. And what Bill Reel will do is say, look, you need to gish gallop him with 1 million questions about Mormonism. What you need to do is put him on the witness stand and basically have a trial where what you do is that if only the prosecution gets to speak and you put a witness on the stand and then the case closes as soon as you're done with your cross-examination. And anyone who's done debate knows that the toughest round in a debate is cross-ex. That's the hardest one. But the nice thing about a debate is that after they cross-examine me, I get to cross-examine them. So what you do if you're a smart guy who wants to dominate the conversation and make someone look foolish is you invite them in for a 2-hour-long cross-examination round where they never get to question you, but you just get to question them. Imagine doing a debate where that was the whole debate. All right, we're going to have a debate. Here's the structure of the debate. We're going to have one cross-examination round. This guy's going to ask all the questions, and you got to try and answer all of them.
Did you watch Patrick Mason ever go on Mormon Story?
I watched some of that. I didn't watch
it is the same thing. He wasn't trying to be combative, but it was just question after question after question for Patrick Mason to sit there and whip himself over. And then he said, we will now turn the questions over to Patrick Mason to talk to me because it's going to be hardcore back to me. And he says, are people sometimes mean to you, John? Is that like that? Those are the types of questions.
Dude, John, like Patrick Mason he's on the wrong team. Okay, Patrick Mason should not be respected by Latter-day Saints who care at all about our doctrine. Okay, I'm sorry. I had him on my show, and we talked, and I kind of grilled him on his wokeness, and I was trying to be nice as I could be, but at the end of the day, like Patrick is not like
they said they were going to have him cross-examine, and if you ever just want to pull all your hair out, watch what questions he asked.
It's seriously like how do you deal with it when people are mean to you on the internet, John?
That's his cross-examination question. Yeah, after he sat there and took all the bigot whatever questions down.
Is it hard being so nice?
Changed. Remember, if we had gone back 15 years, okay, to the early 2000s, and Patrick Mason and him were talking about the truth claims of the church, the reality is that over the truth claims of the church, that's where John and Patrick would have a disagreement. But when it comes to the ideological stuff that we're talking about now, the moral philosophy that they both adhere to, it's the exact same. And so the thing is that you can't cross-examine you don't cross-examine the guy that you already agree with on this stuff. So they're more on the same team than not, in a way that you guys who reject the truth claims of the church and me recognize fully, we agree on this ideological stuff. And so those are the real battle lines. The battle lines in the current fight. Now, if you guys want to have a debate over church's truth claims or if God exists or that kind of stuff, fine, fair enough. I know that's
still loves going down those roads. I got those in 2010.
I mean, they're fun, but they're also boring because,
Well, it's funny. That's what I told my brother Forrest and my other brother about the current environment. It's that we had that conversation, like the entire Fair Mormon website. It's like if you're debating anything on the Fair Mormon website, I'm just like, you realize that people have had that debate like 500 times with this guy writes a blog, that guy writes a blog. It's like, it's already there. You can go read it. We already have read it. We're almost like bored of that, like, oh, seer stones. Like, ooh.
Sure, yeah. Well, this is actually this is one of my beefs with the evangelicals, because it feels like there's this much bigger sort of enemy, and so for some godforsaken reason, the evangelicals won't get off the Mormons' back. Like they, like, okay, look, guys, there's like we're letting men into women's restrooms right now. Maybe let's stop talking about the Trinity for a goddamn second, and like maybe we can just both be like, hey, we agree on this thing. Let's not make that happen.
No, I agree 100%. And that is my same beef with Latter-day Saints who want to focus so much on evangelicals. It's like, look, if you want to go fight the apologetics battles that we won in the 1980s and 90s against the evangelicals and go back to that, like, go ahead. But that fight is over. Even the church history stuff.
Jacob, then what will Cardin do? You want him to just close up shop? He's not going to harass evangelicals.
Most of that stuff.
Well, the thing is, they're very easy targets.
They are pretty silly.
And they also have huge followings sometimes, which is just wild. But so it's sort of like, all right, 80s and 90s, it was evangelicalism. 2000 to 2010, it was like church history. Since 2010 to now, it's all about ideology and moral, like woke
It's
stuff.
a morality, people.
Yep.
And you want to know
That's the
the
new
truth of it,
battlefield.
as I've said many times, is like to actually pull people out of the church, that worked better than any of like the truth claim stuff. The truth claim stuff didn't really get anywhere with most people. And
Yeah, no, that's
Yep.
right. Because like I stopped being Mormon the instant I stopped believing in Mormonism, and it was never about politics. It was never about history. It was never about any of that stuff. And I've always been confused by people who are like, "Well, I left because of the gay thing." I'm like, "What the fuck? What was your religion the whole time? Like,
You want to?
what the hell were you doing when you take the sacrament? Like, were you just like, I like gay people, eat the bread?"
I mean, you might have.
That's not what that is.
You might have left for selfish reasons like that, but I left for like I wanted to be on the right side of history, which is the side that mutilates children and kills babies.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to sin. This is really good. This is an Italian white wine from Piedmont region. You can't imagine, Jacob.
You can tell Jim when he's right and the church changes its doctrine. Hey, I'm going to be going out and getting a drink with Flip. Flip's going to have to teach me what kind of alcohol I'm going to drink now.
Take it easy.
I'll have 2 of your finest alcohols, sir.
An alcoholic beverage.
You know, Jacob will be like, that happens all the time where young ladies come in. There's people who like, they feel like the social pressure to like wine, but like they don't like it. And they come
why
into
does
my
this taste
store
like
and they're
crash
like,
water?
they're like, I need a wine. I want a wine and I want it good, but I don't like it when it's bitter. And it's like, okay, you don't like wine. The answer is you don't like wine, and that's okay. It's fine not to like that. What you want is juice and vodka. That's your drink.
Real quick, with this kind of how I'm being framed in this as being against the brethren in any way,
and panicking. I get people You're panicking.
Exactly, I'm in a total panic. The thing is this: you guys realize? Like, did you watch the video? Did you see me quoting the brethren? The whole point here wasn't to critique the brethren. The whole point was to quote the brethren and then say, they all seem pretty clear on this stuff. Well, but we're seeing other things in, as you might call it, the deep church. As you guys were saying earlier.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, but there is an administrative side to the church, and I genuinely believe that there are full-blown activist types within that
bureaucratic
group.
Well, no, like this. Well, this I was going to say this earlier, which I think is a major problem that the church has. That like I don't know what you do about this. Which is that like so the nuts and bolts mid-level functionaries of every organization that gets to any size, be it a church, business, corporation, these are college graduates.
Yep.
And even if you're a Mormon college graduate. Even if you went to if you got a goddamn business degree from BYU, you got drenched in this critical theory shit like Gatorade on a winning coach at the Super Bowl.
But then beyond that too, there's just something we've mentioned many times before. It comes from James Burnham, just talking about a managerial class does that anyway. The system is what it does. Like a bureaucratic system, no matter how good it is going to swim leftward. That's just how it goes. And you have to fight it and you have to stand up and say, no, we're going to specifically not do that and hold on to that. But, oh, dang, I was going to ask another thing about that. But, the church and where they're going, like the brethren up at the top, do you think there's anybody down the line though that like, because a lot of people sit there and say, well, what if we wait out Oak's dying or something like that? And
so Sister Higdon was in the chat there. She said that her sister went on a mission to California and they were teaching a trans woman and that they were told that the trans woman had to go back to being a man in order to get baptized.
What year
that was? So that was my sister-in-law. That would have been. It's 5 years ago. That's what Morgan said.
Because I was gonna say it popped in my head earlier because I was a missionary in California, 99 to 01, and it was the district next to mine. But they reported in a district meeting they tracked it into a transgender woman and wanted to teach her. And
you mean a man that was dressed as a woman?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's what it's like.
I just want to make
one thing
sure.
that's so obnoxious about this.
I just don't want to get. I just don't want to confuse our language and
It
have
used
it
to be
start
that you
thinking
could just
people
say
are
trans
actually
woman.
able to
Yeah.
that people are actually able to transcend their gender.
It
They're
used to
not.
be
These
that
are
you just
men
said trans
who are,
woman, and you understood that it's a man dressed as a woman. But now they say this thing where it's like, trans women are women. It's like, well, no, they're not. They're men.
That's why they have a prefix.
No, they can't transcend their gender. Just it's a man dressed as a woman.
They're
Just
men who
be very
internalize
specific and speak the
misogyny.
reality. It's a man who is
But anyway,
dressed as a woman.
But the point is, like, they were told back then, like, they're just like no, you like don't even teach the person, like, just cut off. Which I thought was a little weird, because like, it'd be one thing to say like, well, look, you can join a church,
teach him,
but like, God wants you to just go ahead and keep your dick, like. There are three things. There are three things God needs you to do: pay tithing, no coffee, keep your dick.
Oh man, I didn't want my dick.
He's like, I can do 2 out of 3. I can do 2 out of 3.
I think because it's especially upsetting to me that example you had of the guy in there who talked about like he just knew his kid was going to be put on puberty blockers, and that's something coming from the church. And the puberty blocker stuff and young kids is just sorry, John Lynn, you are for sure on the wrong side of history on that one. I don't like to call those things out like you do so often, but in that one I will. That's not going to turn out well for you. But an adult making and choosing those things, I still don't think it's good for him. Like I'm even like an adult who gets into bodybuilding and think bodybuilders shouldn't use testosterone. Maybe when it gets to replacement levels. Did we lose him? It looks like he's a.
Yeah, we lost him.
I'm back. I'm back. Sorry,
but
I'm back.
What are you saying about Osler?
He is like, when you read his book, and that's why I included some of those quotes. Remember, that book is on the shelves at Deseret Book.
So you read
it? I read it cover to cover. And I tell people, here's what they do though. 80% of that book is very good. 80% of it is very good. It's like genuine, like, stories of people that were struggling with stuff and leaders who helped them, and like good stuff. But that's just exactly how you do it. Remember, wolves in sheep clothing have a real big fluffy coat on the outside that looks great. And then there are these, I always say that the glass on the table isn't the glass you got to worry about. The glass you have to worry about is the glass that's embedded in the cupcakes.
Like, so, because I listened to your thing, and did Blair Ostler's book say that his child came out as transgender at 3 years old?
That was another person talking.
So what he does, and this is
so that was somebody
Blair
else.
Ostler. This is
I get my
Ostler.
I get all my dicks mixed up.
So this is Bishop. I just call him Bishop Ostler because then you know who you're talking about. And Bishop Ostler, he, in his book, what he did is he would quote all these transgender or just different people, right? It's a brilliant move. It's brilliant. Yeah. You want to know why? Because he didn't say it. They did. But here's what I push back and I say, but who selected the quotes?
Yeah, no, it's like, well, I mean, just because that thing, when somebody says, "Oh, my child came out as transgender at 3," like that's like saying, like, "Oh, my child came out in my child came out in favor of Keynesian economics at 3." No, 3-year-olds don't. 3-year-olds don't have these kinds of opinions. You jackass, they can't. Like 3-year-olds don't know.
You guys need to have. Cheese. I genuinely want to blow up an ex-Mormon channel right now so bad. You guys are the one. Like, I just, every time I talk with you guys, I'm just like, I don't know why you guys don't have like 25,000 subscribers or more.
We're very niche.
This is the best.
We have no empathy. We have no empathy. We have no empathy. Like nobody comes away from listening to us feeling better about themselves.
Yeah, we're the worst of both worlds. We're blasphemous.
That, man.
Bigoted,
we're a bit in no man's land. We're trying to figure that out, but we can't figure that out. We're
dozens of us.
There are dozens.
But yeah, a kid. Who was that? I didn't even recognize that clip. There was some guy saying that he just had to pray and knew that his daughter or kid at 3 was going to have to go on to hormone surgery or something.
I think there were 2 separate ones. But yes, there was one about puberty blockers. She was going to get them anyway. So I, as her mother, prayed about it, and I decided that we would get it from a reputable doctor. It's like, what?
reputable doctor or not, if you put a kid on hormone therapy too early, if before 10 or stage 2, you will bar them from orgasm for their entire lives. And
my favorite
you're
leftist
telling me
talking
that
point on
God
that,
gave that answer to you in the prayer. Like,
yeah, that's the crazy. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh yeah, so I guess Satan can talk to people. But my favorite leftist talking point to that, if you bring up like that you can bar orgasms from ever happening for your kid, they're like, why are you obsessed with your kid's orgasms? It's like, I'm not. I didn't even think about it until you told me to chop his dick off. Okay, I was like, but then he'll never be able to have sex.
Well,
why do you care if your kid
wild.
has sex? Well, because it's awesome.
When the wild thing is when you look at like Blair Ostler's book. Now, Blair is not published at Deseret Book. She's the bisexual woman.
The queer theology one. I've listened to some of her podcasts.
Just FYI, if you guys want to read queer theory, like in its most just pure form.
Well, I've read Judith Butler.
So. Well, this is the thing. You go read that book, Queer Mormon Theology. I read it cover to cover, and it is queer.
So it's just like it's right out of Judith Butler. I've heard some of her stuff from her podcast where they talk about she tries to use
Oh, I'm back. Yes,
yeah,
there.
I kind of lost you for a sec.
Did we lose you?
Well,
yeah, he faded out for a second, but he's popping back.
You back?
I don't know. Hello?
You'll get back in eventually. Your face isn't moving yet, but we can hear you every now and then.
Am I live? Am I here?
We hear you. Just your face isn't moving.
All right. Well, I'll just say it real quick. I actually probably better get going here. But that book is queer theory to the T, but it's actually genius when you look at the way that it wraps itself in Mormon theology to try and create a Mormon version of queer theory. But here's the real kicker. Her book actually makes perfect sense. If you reject the premises of the church, if you reject the idea of gender being binary, if you reject the idea of marriage actually morally have to do two people, this is where it should naturally lead. Like, why is there the arbitrary standard that you can only be married to one person?
Yeah, and I heard on one of her podcasts talking about, the pre-existence and all that stuff and being gendered and then the bodies you coming into and all that sort of deal. And you could see how people could work in their queer theology into those ideas. I mean,
it isn't hard at all. I think it's actually very logical, because as soon as you get rid of the fact of the number of people who can get married, because that's arbitrary, you can say only 2. And then as soon as you get rid of like, okay, and it has to be a male and a female, and then you get rid of the gender thing. Well, yeah, any 2 consenting adults, no matter how they identify, could be put together. And with the transhumanist stuff that she's into, she incorporates that as well and starts talking about, well, yeah, you can have like men that get a uterus transplant and they can have a baby. And it's like, it's logical. Like the thing, what I like to do is I actually like to take people's arguments to their logical conclusions and see where they go, and that's when you find out, oh my gosh, like these things take you to places that are just absolutely bonkers, that are totally rational based on the premises involved.
Mm-hmm. Well, I thought it was pretty funny when he got down to the end and he went on a long rant. You haven't heard the end, but he went on a long rant of all the stuff you probably haven't heard of yet, because he was going to blow your mind at that sort of deal.
Oh yeah, that last half hour is a doozy.
Oh man, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah,
I gotta do the dishes. I gotta do the dishes tonight, so I'm gonna be listening to him.
And the best part about it is that it's Delin and he talks slow, so you can just put it on double time, or else you'll lose your mind.
It's a full WWE promo, man. It's like, Jacob Hansen, have you heard of it? He gets into that whole deal. But
he gets real hurt.
I'm planning on making a response to it, not just the invitation acceptance, but I think I'm gonna make a full video. I'm gonna take all the stuff that he's saying, and I'm going to have so much fun with it, because this guy says things that are just
Did you download it?
Stupid.
Because when he gets all heated up like that, he's want to delete a thing, so you might want to download it.
Oh, he will?
Yes.
Oh.
When he gets heated like that and loses his mind like that, he he says that he got like too hopped up on coffee and he deletes it, and it's a common thing. Like when he gets that upset. So
it's wild. It's wild to see. I noticed in this video he has a gut reaction towards me, and frankly, wow, that makes me feel good. Because if there's anyone who I want, like if John DeLynn doesn't have a gut reaction to me, I'm doing something wrong. Like when Korahor is not having an issue with you and literally praising Ostler, who changed the name of his podcast to match John DeLynn's TED Talk. Did you know that?
Oh yeah, he mentions that.
Learn and Love.
What's the podcast called?
It's called Listen, Learn, and Love. That was the title of John DeLynn's or TED Talk. You know when Richard Ostler changed it? After he watched John DeLynn. I have it on good authority that him and John DeLynn are actually friends, and that's why someone who went on his show wasn't allowed to talk bad about John DeLynn on the show, because John is my friend. That's what Richard Ostler told him. So these guys are friends, and not only that, Richard Ostler literally has a book on the shelves at Deseret Book that has the same title as John DeLynn's TED Talk.
Oh, damn.
There's you wouldn't know, Jacob, because it's a rated R movie and your God doesn't let you watch them. But there's a movie called Dewey Cox. Like, did you guys? Because I sent it to you guys that Dear Mr.
I've
President
watched
song.
Dewey Cox a million times.
It's like, but like, it's like listen, love, learn. Like that's almost a line out of that song. But
it's
a song like the movie
fake
is rated
virtue
R.
signaling stuff.
The song is not rated R. If you look up "Dear Mr. President" from the Walk Hard soundtrack, Jacob, the first verse is like the whole ex-Mormon thing, because the whole thing is like it's a rock. He plays a rock star, but he's doing the folk protest scene in the '60s, and the whole thing is basically like, you know, it's a letter to the president, but it's all about how, you know, listen to me, listen and learn, because I have a heart. I stand for the people who don't have a voice, and like, you know, my heart, what is it like? My heart is a church. My arms are like my heart is a church. My head is the steeple. Like, and it's exactly this thing that we are all fighting against. You know, like
John is him and Ostler, meaning Bishop Ostler. These are activists against the church, and there's a reason that John likes all these guys. Because they're like, and it's just what blows my mind. This is where the confusion is, right? Why are the brethren? So here's another thing I've heard kind of through the grapevine, and it's from pretty good sources, in my opinion, that someone in the general presidencies of the church has told someone who I know that the church is not excommunicating people who have large online followings. Because it causes more problems.
It throws them in the briar patch.
The companies aren't firing incompetent hacks that have large online followings.
See, but see that in my mind. Hey, like, do you like? Okay, is it kind of strategic? We have two standards of justice depending on how big your online following is.
Oh, yeah.
The church's doctrine in the scriptures mandates that the leaders of the church remove the wolves out of the sheep. And it doesn't matter if the people who follow them leave, then they need to leave, or else they will pervert the body of Christ. And the thing is if they, and so this is where someone like me is looking at this going, like, here. Now, they have the authority to make the call. Now, but I want them to clarify, like, this is why we're doing it. And, you know, because to us, it creates this mixed signal. And that is here's been the weirdest thing about my video. I've gotten ridiculous amounts of positive feedback on it from everyone. From the most orthodox members to members of the community of Christ to John DeLynn. Everyone, there's one thing everybody agrees on. Everyone agrees.
I'll tell you, you were getting some. I have never seen this happen since you've been kicked out of the group, but you were getting some love on Latter-day Lobsters.
I want to
Like,
know
even-
the story of how that happened.
Oh, it's there's a whole episode. There was a whole episode you guys did showing it with Alejandro, didn't you? Or did you guys not
Yeah.
go into it?
Yeah, no, we
Yeah, you can watch a
kinda,
video on it.
we kind of kissed and made up. But at the end of the day, like, I don't have any bones to pick with them. I just got annoyed when they were actually telling lies about me, because they were. And so I kind of cleared the record, and it caused some stir. So, but anyway, as far as things go, I got to get rolling right now. But the main thing I hope people realize, and I haven't watched all of Dylan's stuff, is that I'm not engaging in activism against the church from my perspective. I'm engaging in activism for the church, because I'm literally standing up for what the brethren have said in general conference. And where my question is I'm literally doing the same thing that Oakes was doing by citing that girl's letter. I'm just writing my same letter, giving the exact same thing. And basically my whole reason in doing it was so that other people don't feel alone if they're confused by these things, and that we start a conversation within church leadership, within the channels of the priesthood, about this subject. That's not, like, that is what we do. We're supposed to counsel with our leaders. And so
But Jacob,
I want
your
to
letter is on the wrong
encourage-
side of history. Your letter is on the wrong side.
Well, I just want it to be very clear that people think you can't ever say anything bad about the church, or
No, you can. I can. Ask me how.
Well,
Ask me how I know.
What I mean is that you have to. There are proper channels and ways to deal with things that you're dealing with, and I am encouraging people to realize, if you're seeing these issues and you feel bad, like, you're not alone. Go talk to your leaders and share this video with them if you feel like you have a hard time articulating this. Because I wanted to put together something that the leader could look at and be like, I don't have answers for you.
I think
And then
there's
the
an
leader goes up the
interpretation in
chain.
that they were saying that you were saying go talk to your leaders, kind of like the same way leftists go and tell people to call their senator or something like that. Like, but you were saying go talk to your leader for counsel for you, not go talk to your leader to petition the government or something like that.
Well, and my thing, here's the way I would put it. You go to your leader and you say, I'm confused about this. Can you help me? And then what happens is that, here's what I think honestly happens. The leader doesn't know either. The leader is just as confused. And if you're confused as the leader, then you need to take it up the next level of the chain to someone. Oh, am I back? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you said up the chain.
Okay.
You need to take it up the chain.
You go up the chain. Well, they will take it up the chain. It's their call to do it. Your job is just to go one level up. But their job is to go another level up if they don't know the answer. And the whole idea is that we go up the chain. And even if the brethren don't know what to do, I believe that that is where you seek the Lord's guidance and clarity on the subject. Now, Jim Bennett might be over there thinking, this is it, guys. They're going to get the revelation finally. And no, they're not. What's going to happen is the church
there's no revelation.
What's
the reveal? It's like, no, men and women are still men and women. Like, the revelation is nothing has changed.
And that's my thing. Everyone's asking, like, what's the, they gotta get a revelation. It's like, they had a revelation. It's called the Family Proclamation. And all the other revelations in all of our history that talk about the divinity of, the gender binary and marriage and sexuality, like, this was asked and answered. You just don't like the answer.
Yeah. Well, no. So one of the things we're fighting against, and since you like negative attention, maybe you can take up the banner. So, like, one of the issues that we have with all this, and like where the old guys in the church and the Relief Society types and the young people are all getting caught up in the church, is that we have let the queer theorists run away with this lie that if you don't affirm the metaphysical presuppositions of queer theory, that you hate gays or anything of that sort. Like that, like if you don't believe that men can be women,
Vicious,
means that
it's
you want them to
vile,
kill
as,
themselves.
Okay,
And
okay, I have
all
a
this
theory
other shit
about
where it's
this.
because this is the problem is that like I know for a fact there's a lot of Mormons that like they know intellectually that men can't become women, but they also know that if they are heard saying it in public, that an enormous amount of shit's coming down on them. And like, 'cause,
Okay,
you know, go ahead.
With the old church, one is that they actually did mistreat gay people. They did, and they feel guilty about it. Okay, they were the ones who actually were upholding policies that were really kind of a-hole policies. Okay, so they feel a need to like repent, and they feel good about themselves for going in the other direction because they feel like they're leaving their past behind. Number two is there are a lot of people alive today who are out teaching the doctrine.
You froze it doctrine. Do you hear us?
Doctrine freezer.
Okay, you froze it doctrine. They were out teaching the doctrine.
Teaching the pre-1978 doctrines about Black people. And so the thing is that they saw that change. And so they're sitting here going, is this like that? I don't want to go out and say something that I'm going to regret later, because if I was in 1977 quoting all the things that the church and the brethren had said, and then I got my butt handed to me when that changed, I ain't doing that again. And so you have a lot of people in the church, I think, who both feel guilty, and that's why they're kind of like, I'm just going to be quiet about this, Jacob, because I lived through 1978, and I don't know that the church isn't going to change things on us again.
It's so funny because like that way of being helped them to land on the wrong side of history on both sides of it.
That's my whole point. Here's the whole narrative is wrong about the blacks in the priesthood. The blacks in the priesthood ban was put in place because of the culture of the 1850s. No one ever talks about that. They say the culture changed it away, but they don't realize, no, it was the culture in the first place. We actually in 1978 were reverting back to the way that Joseph Smith did things when he actually ordained Black people to the priesthood. It was a cultural change in the 1850s that changed the original doctrine of the church, which didn't have a priesthood ban. Exactly. And if you really want to know what's going on, is we're about to potentially do what Brigham did.
Yeah, follow the culture.
Everything about Mormon history makes perfect sense if you don't believe in God. just saying.
All right, guys.
There's no mystery.
I gotta run. I love you guys.
All right.
You're my favorite.
Hopping on. Good luck with it. If you get on with them, talk to us about what you're going to talk about, and well, maybe talk about before you railroad you into talking about other stuff, and put you through a what do they call it? A struggle session. You'll go on to a Mormon story struggle session.
Did you see my handle, Jacob? Did you see what I'm going by today?
I did, and actually, here, real story before I go. Real story. I was genuinely thinking about not releasing that video. I got done with my seminary class, not yesterday, but the day before, and I was conflicted about this, and I didn't know if I was going to release it. I'd made a first draft that was a little more snarky, and I prayed about it. No joke, I got in my car and I listened to like YouTube as I'm driving around, and a clip of Greg Mattson came up where he talked about the need for both sustaining the brethren, but also for raising awareness. And I genuinely had this thing where I said, that's what I need to do. I need to raise awareness and I need to sustain the brethren as I do this. And that's what I did. And so
there you go, everybody. Prayer works.
I did.
Well, it does work, but unfortunately, we can expose here what you said. He called John DeLynn a Mr. Mackey head freak show. No, I'm just kidding. But,
all right, guys.
All right.
I'll talk to you later.
Have a good one.
Hey, Jacob. Bigots are bad. Okay.
Will John DeLynn have him on?
No.
The answer is no, but discuss. I've got to run the restroom.
How no will not John DeLynn have
Just
him
how not will he have him on?
How not? He's got an easy
will
out.
John
He's just
even
gonna
acknowledge it?
He'll acknowledge it because it's an easy out and it'll bolster him. He'll just say that, yeah, he doesn't want to platform that level of bigotry, and that's all he has to do.
Who will be the first person to get blocked on all John DeLynn channels for continuously commenting, "Bring on Jacob Hansen"? You said just timestamp that thing, like link it to him. Like, you said you wanted to have Jacob on. When is it happening? Make it happen.
Yeah.
What if we offered money?
If we offered
I'm
money,
never
if
giving
I'm offering
John
money,
Lynn.
then I'm going on Mormon Stories, okay? Like, I'll
Yeah,
pay him
no,
money
yeah.
to have me on Mormon Stories. That'd be fun as hell.
Wouldn't that be fun if you could super chat yourself onto Mormon Stories? Like,
No,
hey,
I'll pay him. I'll
yeah.
be like, hey, I'll give you $500 if you have me and Flip just come on to Mormon Story. Of
That's
course,
the thing I really wonder about AI. Is like, is it like, because if you can actually just tell AI, like, hey, watch all 20 years of John DeLynn and pick out every time he lied about X, and then like just make the supercut or whatever it is, like, hey, let's supercut every time John DeLynn says he wants to hear from critics, put it a supercut, and then attach it with the message saying, here I am,
Yeah, whenever he talks about like being able to talk, like reach across the aisle for people, he's talking about like Jim Bennett and
Yeah.
Patrick Mason, Dan McClellan. He's talking about those guys. He can. He's
long
not
as it's
really
inside
reaching
the Blue
across an
Cathedral.
aisle.
No, like that
Yeah.
one guy, who apparently died in Ukraine. I'm still trying to figure out what's up with that. Like, that was the closest he ever came to having a dissonant voice on, and that was an accident. Like, he didn't even realize what he was doing when he had that guy on.
Oh yeah. Oh, that guy
The
died in
wrestler,
Ukraine?
isn't that? Maybe I'm confused. Isn't that what? I don't know. Chris is peeing. He's the guy who knows.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I thought that's what he said.
Oh, that's sad because that was.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that was funny.
He
He
had so
started
much fun
like.
with it. Yeah, when
Didn't
he's
he start
talking about
making-
he was saying about how the how anti-male the family court system is in Utah. And it's just funny because
that's
John
bad
Wood's like,
speak
oh yeah,
right
so
there.
the next topic, don't you think the church is lame to gay people?
Yeah, I was talking about how family court fucked me though. Can we talk about that, John DeLynn? No, I don't think so.
Only if we put women first.
Well, patriarchy hurts everyone, dude. So of course.
Yeah, no, that's how that works.
Oh man, I missed a lot of
everyone.
I wasn't able to keep up on the self-destructed with Rod Meldrum. I think Jacob is right. DeLynn's distaste seems personal. I think the icon of decline video about his family hit him hard. I do think I sense that DeLynn did get very angry and personal about that one. He gets the same way about Cardin and Quaker a little bit, but well, I mean, I think it's true that DeLynn would be afraid to have somebody on. I think he's partially afraid because of that audience capture, not just because the person. I don't know that he'd be so afraid that the person would totally destroy him. I think he'd be partially aware that he could kind of destroy him. But I mean, I think DeLynn could do as well as Bill Real did against Jacob, which the honest truth of it is I think it did just kind of show how in debate, like whoever's in the deconstruction chair has a tough time, and who's ever in the chair of pointing out the other one's crap has an easy time of it. And that's just kind of the way of history. Whoever gets to be Socrates gets to be who asks all the questions, gets to be the winner. But I think John would go well enough with that. What I think he's more afraid of is his audience capture and the people who would say, how dare you platform this person? I withdraw my donations.
Yeah.
That's what he's worried about.
Because that's the only way they can really keep going is from support by us viewers. And if we want to see their great ex-Mormon content every day of the week, then donate to my Patreon.
I think that's true. He would not be open to all questions. He would try to limit types of questions that Jacob can ask, which I think the Real is pretty open to any sort of question when they have their debates. Please say something about being a turbo in Mr. Hanky voice, okay? Who does Heidi Ho? Mr. Hanky's the Heidi Ho! But for our DeLynn, we do Mr. Mackey, which is Mr. Mackey,
Burglar's bad,
Dallin Oaks is
vile, vicious bigot, you
shouldn't be a bigot, kids.
Do you want more of his wrestling promo?
Yeah.
All right, you asked
Go back
for
to
it.
before we were rudely interrupted.
Yeah, I can't believe. Here it comes. Oh, I still got Cindy Sharkey up on the thing. The lady who destroyed Jim Bennett.
It's funny, like the character of Mr. Mackey was based on a real guidance counselor that Trey Parker
Was
had.
it?
Apparently it was a woman. Like he said, like the real person was a woman, but she was like, okay.
Part of the
Don't
Longhouse.
be drugs, kids, okay.
Oh, that's something that came up this week. I guess Alejandro over on Lobsters was really pissed that Matt Walsh was dunking on therapy, and now Matt Walsh and Jordan Peterson are going to have a debate about if therapy's good or not.
Matt Walsh is going to be a terrible debater.
Here it comes.
But when I hit that ring and I saw what the madness was all about, I realized there was a whole nother universe out there, a whole nother frontier, and the power of the madness and the mania just blew my 24-inch guns out.
You mean to tell me there is another...
Oh, sorry.
I can't believe this. There we go.
Was never doctrine to begin with. Have you heard of the 2015 exclusion policy that was then reversed 3 or 4 years later? Like, are you not paying attention at all? You're acting like the church has never changed. What you're really doing is you're showing.
John, and this is what I've been saying to people for years. When 20 years ago, I was going to mention this before. W.B. Du Bois came up with the concept of double consciousness. Well, I mean, I guess he kind of pulled some of that from Marxism, but he always had the term of saying whatever underdog class or race class has double consciousness because you are the one who's able to understand the world of the people who are on the outside, and somewhat you get glimpses of the ones on the inside because you get to look at their stuff. But the people who are on the inside of the hegemony and all that stuff don't get to look outside of it because they're just so stuck in what they're stuck in and not knowing. And strangely enough, like 10, 20 years ago, the ex-Mormons were the ones who had like the double world of we know what it's like on the inside and we know what it's like on the outside. Like we have the double consciousness. We know what you guys believe and we know what the people on the outside believe. But you guys have been insular for so long. And then the Mormons had to listen to your guys' arguments for so long that now they have the two, they know the two sides now, and now you only know your side. You got complacent, you got rotten, and you got insular. And now he could blow he knows all the stuff that you could drop on him, and there's stuff he could drop on you that you're not ready for.
It's like they only recall their Mormon selves, their Mormon past selves, in like faint caricatures of what a person really is. Like, yeah, I was a bigot back then. Either that, or it's either I was a bigot back then because all Mormons are bigots, or it's I was different from all the Mormon bigots and I was less bigoted.
But it's true that back then too, that all sorts of Mormons, and sure there's still normies or mormies, but back then all sorts of Mormons didn't have any idea about any of these arguments. Now all kinds of them totally do. They've heard them all. Like you're not blowing his mind, especially if he's an influencer online. There's no way you could think that you're going to come blow his mind about this stuff. But whatever.
Egregious ignorance as to the history and the reality of your own church. And if you were such a bigoted jerk in the way you treat people, I would want to be kind and compassionate with you. But you're so offensive and heinous in your level of discourse that it's really hard to have compassion for you. So what I will ask is educate yourself, Jacob, and let me do you a little favor. Okay.
At some point, I don't know if it's right here, but he dropped
do
the do
better.
better. Yeah, the do
know.
better line.
It's coming. I'm pretty sure.
It's
I
coming.
I think he
past.
does it a few times. Actually, I remember it happening pretty close to the beginning.
God,
go to Mormon Stories podcast, Jacob Hansen, and watch some
Donate.
episodes. And I'll just give you.
So you're giving him homework to do. So I'm sure if like he gave you homework to do, you would do his homework.
Yeah.
A little recommendation.
We have all sorts of homework that we could give you, John Lynn, about stuff of what we've been trying to like yell at you about that you just kind of like let seep in and just assume it's all nicey, goody, niceys. But
on a couple episodes you could watch. Watch the episode with Dusty Johns. Watch the episode with Lori Lee Hall. Watch the episode with Elizabeth Grimshaw. Watch the episode with Gerardo's friends.
Who's this?
don't watch any of the
that's the
episodes that I
architect.
deleted.
That's the architect.
So that was like a trans architect for the Mormon Church came out as trans and got excommunicated.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah. So I'm gonna tell you right now, John DeLynn, since all these we know the ideology and all that sorts of stuff, maybe in 20 years it'd get deeper and there'd be something we shouldn't be so insular about. But I can tell you that all of those podcasts would be boring and say the same thing. But I've listened to some of them.
Douglas and Brennan, right? Watch our episodes on the November 2000.
What's that other channel? I watched a bunch of his stuff. The Latter-Day Saint channel. It's like you guys have pumped out so much of this stuff, and it's never any different.
November 2015 policy and its reversal. Watch our interviews with Kyle Ashworth. Go read Kyle Ashworth's. Was it On the Record PDF? Yep. Where he gives the history of the Mormon Church, changing its policies, changing its treatment of LGBTQ individuals. Become informed, learn about blood atonement that was, doctrine until it was taken away. Go learn about the Adam God.
Is this like technically explaining? This is technically a type of explaining, right? Like it's more explaining or something like that. You're explaining to something to somebody that he knows already.
Theory that was doctrine until it was taken away. Learn about the Mormon Church's temple ceremony that used to be 8 or 9 hours long and used to have blood oaths where you slit your throat before they took that out. Like at the Mormon Church, if it's anything, it's been changing its doctrine and policies consistently for 2 centuries. So learn a little bit about your own history before you go on your bigoted rants that are hurtful, that only display your ignorance as to the church's history and the way the brethren have always behaved. Okay, that's how I feel, Jacob Hansen. I invite you to come on Mormon Stories, and we'll have a conversation. And I promise to treat you respectfully. And mostly,
there's no caveat with that one. There's no caveat.
I promise to treat you respectfully after that.
He drops the caveat later, but there's no caveat after that one.
Your faith evolves, because I don't think the church long-term is going to be moving in your direction. I think the church is actually, Martin Luther King Jr. once said that the arc of history is long and it bends towards justice. And unfortunately for you, Jacob Hansen, even the Mormon Church's history bends towards justice. Maybe it's always 30 years after the fact. Maybe it's always 30 years after the rest of the civilized world. And maybe it's always in response to the same activism that it decries. But make no mistake, Jacob Hansen, the church eventually gets it right after it excommunicates the activists who showed it the way. That's always the way it's been. It's never not been that way.
Activists showed it.
He mentions himself getting excommunicated several times in this. It's always like he's a victim.
I think it's funny though, they're talking about like the activists are the true guiding light in all things too.
Way, and that's the way it's going. So Jacob Hansen,
I just had a little flash of hang on, because I've been drinking wine, but it just came to me as activist ex-Mormons had empathy as they talked and talked and talked and talked and talked.
Who wrote that fucking song?
The monster.
Fucking terrible. Like
you gotta be careful when you're talking about songs. Flip's got like ancestry that wrote a lot of those songs.
If your ancestor wrote that song, Flip, then I hate your fucking ancestor.
No, the guy, High on a Mountaintop. That's one of my boys.
Oh,
that's a good one.
Well, that's actually not a bad one.
Yeah.
Either stay on the wrong side of history and apostatize from the church, or continue suffering, or join the rest of us in the civilized.
I want to put this like an AI of Hulk Hogan for sure. Or continue suffering. But the way he's going off kilter right here, I guarantee you he's going to pull this down.
World of kindness and compassion and acceptance of the marginalized and the people that Jesus Christ himself came to administer to. That's my invitation to you, Jacob Hansen.
Jesus said, "Be nice." And that's all he ever said.
Was that? Did Caffeinated John just reappear on Mormon Stories?
He did. Yeah.
I apologize. That was something came over me. That was not planned.
So, here in the chat, Uber Mormon mentioned that if Jacob comes out as gay, John would have to have him on, and he's almost right. But the only thing I would add to that is when Jacob comes out as gay, because nobody except somebody with internalized homophobia has this level of bigotry inside them. So it's probably
you know what? And maybe Jacob isn't the guy for it, but we got to find somebody who's got the skills. But like that Norm Macdonald bit where he's like, "I'm a deeply closeted homosexual," and he's like, "So you're gay?" He's like, whoa, why'd you say that? I'm deeply closeted. And just have Jacob like just do the queer theory thing.
The
Like,
Norm
look,
Macdonald.
yeah, like we just have him be like a entirely orthodox believing transgender and just play the fucking game and just to demonstrate how it's played, because like it's not that hard to play. It's like, look, I completely affirm the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'm identifying as a woman for the purpose of this conversation because I can. Like, I mean, that's really all you have to do, and just walk through it, and it just becomes farcical in no time.
So can we play like the thought experiment of like they had on that Hassan guy or whatever, the dude who was the cult leader person? Like, let's pretend that the Mormon Church really is the Moonies that these guys want to describe them as.
Yeah.
You know, they frequently like push it that. They're here screaming like, how dare you Moonies keep the gays out? Like, if I'm supposed to follow you guys on your premises that this is a bad cult that people should not be a part of and waste their money into,
it's based on lies and it's racist and they just want your money.
Why are you trying to get the gays in? Like, what are you doing to them?
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you sending them that way?
Yeah. Or you just be like, like, stay away, gays. Good job.
If we're following the premise of your logic all the way to its end, like, why are you trying to make the Moonies? You guys did many episodes about how this is a terrible, horrible cult.
Like, why would you try to rehabilitate the Nazi party like that? Like, no, just reject it.
Yeah, would they be cheering the pink washing of the Nazi party? I mean, we see them doing that all over in neoliberal politics all over the world. Like, oh boy, geez, didn't you notice that those Nazis sure had a lot of equality of the pay gap. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's all true, John. It's all true.
It's kind of, I mean, it is a little fun, right? I mean, the pain and the suffering of the marginalized is horrific and sad. But as you and I have been doing this for a long time, I was excommunicated for this stuff. It's nice to see 10 or 20 years or 30 or 40 years.
I hate to be the one to remind you this constantly, John.
Is Jonathan listening? I need somebody with internet skills to take that clip that he just said where like the suffering of the marginalized, just have him saying that, but with dollar signs in his eyes. with the fundraiser tag. Somebody put that together for me.
And just like highlight a bunch of those recent studies about how people with the dark triad traits really, really push on the virtue signaling worlds because they
nice to see the church.
Forrest brought up a good point. He says that instead of coming out as gay, Jacob should come out as queer because nobody knows what the fuck that means.
Oh yeah, no, that's better. Yeah, exactly. Like, just no, like, look, I'm queer.
Yeah, that's
wait, are you transgender? Like, stop trying to pigeonhole me. I'm queer.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
you don't even have to change anything about yourself.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like, just keep insisting on it and watch how quickly it falls apart.
He's got to pick up Norm's cadence to do all this stuff. Like, I'm queer.
What? How could you say that?
Man, I'm queer.
How dare you say that? I'm not gay. I'm deeply closeted. That means I don't acknowledge that I'm gay.
They would apologize to the couples they've excommunicated for same-sex marriage, to the activists that had the courage to speak out and show the church the way.
Commandments.
I wish the church had the courage and the dignity and the grace to apologize to the people it's punished and excommunicated that actually were on the right side of history.
Yeah, I agree.
Sorry, I don't know which side was the right side.
Like Moonies don't kick people out, right? Like,
I don't know.
Do the worst cults, do they even do any of that sort of stuff? Like, how dare you move? We tried for 5 years to get our kid out of the Moonies, and then they excommunicated him. And he's like, "This is medieval." We're like, "Oh, that's medieval. How dare you Moonies do that to him?"
Yeah, it's like,
do you see your cognitive dissonance here?
Oh no!
Oh no! How dare you, cruel Moonies, remove a person.
I don't get to be Scientologist anymore.
I do love how people who always they talk about like native tribes and shit like that. Like they were totally accepting of transgenderism and homosexuality, and now 1,000 years later, it's a lie. But they they bring that talking
They
point up,
also
and then
lie
they're
about
like,
that.
but here we are 1,000 years later, when history always tends toward justice, and we're not as accepting as they were. So what does that mean about? How do you
So then they
square that
start
in your
doing the noble
worldview?
savage stuff. You
Gerardo, keep going. I need to be quiet and let you talk.
Oh,
Yeah, you
this
do.
was great. Well, I kind of gave my final thoughts, but
Okay.
yeah, I totally agree. I mean,
Gerardo, what would you think if they came across you nowadays and they decided when you were a little kid and that you had certain tendencies that they felt that maybe they needed to medicalize that instead of just let you grow up into being a gay man?
it's not just with LGBT issues, right? It's like with women, with Black people,
people of color.
I mean, so many of the activists that I see that are against the hardest against transing the youth are adult gay men and women who really thought it through. And said, wait a minute, you guys are trying to medicalize me away. You are trying to kill my reproductive rights from a young age.
They know they would have been on that chopping block. They know that, like, if I was an effeminate boy, and if I were an effeminate boy now, they'd be like, well, are you a girl? Because now we're progressive enough to think that if you like an easy bake oven instead of a dinosaur, then that means you're a girl. That's how fucking progressive we are.
I just think, imagine like we could do a skit about like the modern day conservative woke immigrant Mexican dad. Like, no son of mine is going to be a stinking fag. You're a girl.
But
put you on hormones immediately.
They did that all over the Muslim world.
Yeah, it's with
It's people who love science, intellectuals, like people who care about truth, right?
There is some point there he talks about words. You guys don't like the meaning of words, and words don't have meanings. Do you know anything about your history and the history of your worldview, John? Do you know anything about who dissects words and changes the meaning of words?
Yeah. Yep. September 6th, right?
There's so many people. M. Gunter writes, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. The principle guides me in my work and research. Yeah, I think that's the actual quote of Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
That dude has
well, Gerardo, you're a legend, and people are here for you.
I don't trust his work and research.
So thank you for making today happen.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think it was a good episode. I think this is really important to highlight. And like we said, we kind of agreed with Jacob as far as, well, yeah, there is definitely confusion, right? Like there's definitely duplicitous statements being said over the pulpit versus what's happening in the words and stakes or at BYU. So yeah, it's all great to highlight it because hopefully the church will keep bending in the right direction.
They will. They'll get it right eventually. They often do. And Jacob Hansen, when you're either excommunicated or you apostatize from the church, I hope I welcome you to come tell your story on Mormon Stories podcast.
That's what I'm saying. The caveat on it.
See? Yeah, you're right.
We'd love to have you.
It'll be awesome.
All right. Thanks, Gerardo. You're the best.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks.
I think that's it. There's other crap in there, but I wouldn't be able to find it without the thing. I could maybe read some of the stuff I wrote down. He called him a blowhard at some point.
Yeah, that's exactly where I joined in.
Says you're harmful to youth, you blowhard. And you drive out the progs. He says the progs are loving people and you're vile and vicious.
I know it's hilarious.
Well, the people on your side of the aisle are vile and vicious.
He started talking about.
Yeah,
because
he said it about right wingers.
I think Jacob is hypocritical. I think he lacks self-awareness. I think his apologetics are shit. I think that the way he administrates his group is stupid and hypocritical. And I got all kinds of beef with Jacob. But the idea that Jacob is any kind of mean or bad or like, come on, get a fucking grip. Jacob is
the crazy. It's actually most of the criticisms I see
Jacob as much as anybody can, and I still think that Jacob is a good person, and I'd rather have him for a neighbor than John DeLynn any fucking day of the week.
So that's the crazy thing is the most criticisms I hear, even on like the Latter-day Lobsters group, is that he's like smug and arrogant, and I'm like, maybe I don't have a good radar for that or something, because I never really picture him as being bad faith or smug or anything.
I picture
like that.
Dan.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
Smug and arrogant. I don't picture it.
Yeah.
You know, Jacob doesn't come off as smug or arrogant to me. Forrest doesn't come off as smug or arrogant to me. Like none of the
some of Jacob's
it's just direct. It's just direct.
Because like, here's one thing is like, and I was gonna say it to Jacob, and I didn't. It's probably better than I didn't. But part of me is like, kind of like, hey, this is karma, man. Like all this shit where John's like, hey, do you even know about this? Because like Jacob plays that game with me all the time to the point where I repeatedly called him out on it. Where he's like, because Jacob would say that like, are you even familiar with creation research or whatever? It's like, yes, Jacob, yes. And I've asked you to stop making obsessions about what I know, but there you go. That's my grind against Jacob.
So
but like, I'm consistent because like when John Dehlin does it to Jacob, I say, John Dehlin, you're full of shit. And when Jacob does it to anybody, I say, Jacob, you're full of shit. Don't say that shit. It's not fair.
So he says, at some point, he says they should respect people's names the way they ask us to respect Mormon. And one of the problems with that is like, I don't know of any ex-Mormon, even us who try to be respectful, respects that.
I will never respect that. And that's
we all dead name it. We all do. There's not anybody who doesn't dead name the church.
No, that was one of the things that is like really fascinating where it's like, because normally when there's an official announcement, people go, oh, okay, official announcement. That was one where like everybody was just like, yeah, no, and we're not even going to talk about it. Like, just no.
Yeah, that was fucking dumb.
So he says this as I guess a therapist. He says fear is a secondary emotion.
Anger.
And the primary emotion that the fear protects is either sadness. I mean, not fear, anger. Yeah, anger is a secondary emotion, and the anger is coming from either fear or sadness. So which one is it here with Jacob? Is it fear or sadness? And I guess you got angry too, Dehlin. So is it fear or sadness? Although I reject the premise because I get a whole lot of anger at retardedness. And I don't know if I'm fearful or sad about the retards, but it's mostly just frustrated with them. I don't think that's
also like there's a little bit of that, like, why are you mad? Why are you mad? Like, why are you angry? It's that Nurse Ratchet, double-faced thing. I'm like, what? Oh, why are you upset? It's like, well, because you're full of shit. That's why. Like, that's a legitimate
John,
reason to be upset.
When I get cut off in traffic, it makes me sad or fearful. You fucking idiot! You fucking hack.
Most of my anger
comes that you cut me off. I'm fearful that I'm gonna be late,
and I'm disguising it with anger.
Most of my anger comes from stupidity. Like it's just stupid people. I don't know, but I get angry a whole lot in the gym at people doing stupid things in the gym.
The thing that like it's a thing, and I should just be less angry, but I just get so angry. But you see it all the time. But that's like when you're driving down the street, right? And like somebody's pulling out of like a parking lot, and they're waiting to turn, but their bumper is like 4 feet into the lane of traffic.
Yeah,
and they just watch as everybody brakes and swerves around them, and they're just looking. And there's no no. Do you not understand? You're halfway in the road, out like one or the other. But whatever. Like, and then I remember.
I say the most vile things to people.
That's thing I always remember. Like, I had to I'm like, how the fuck are you this bad at driving? And then like I had this flashback. I'm like, oh, that's right. You're like my mom. Like my mom is not a bad person. She's just a terrible driver. And
Forrest says Jacob is smug.
Yeah.
I think Jacob, like if somebody accuses Jacob of being smug, I'm not going to defend Jacob from that. I'll defend Jacob from a lot of shit, but he's pretty smug.
Yeah, so in the gym, I go freaking crazy if anybody gets on a cardio machine next to me when there was another option. Cardio machines are just like urinals.
Like half of our group.
You treat them like the urinal rule.
What the fuck? Just a video of some foreign jackass sitting on the treadmill next to you.
It's funny, like there's so many. It's like it's amazing. You could do that. Like I know you only give us like a fraction of the options.
There's some more AI imagery. Streeter made of us. I like that one.
You're always.
He always puts. I've never.
You're always double fisting wine.
It's like the
Well, I
only
think the
time-
AI double fist the wine. If you say
The
he
only
drinks
time
wine,
I ever
it's in the picture too. I don't know, Flip. Do you have a wine cup right now?
I have a stemless kind. The only time I've
Yeah,
ever
Jared always
double
comes
fisted
out
wine
pumped.
is when I'm at a proper tasting and I'm spitting it into a bucket anyway.
Kevin always comes out glamorous looking.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, this is
Which
the
style
closest
is
Kevin's
this?
come to looking ugly.
That one's good. I like that one. Yeah, Jared always comes out punk. I like that one. That's me. That's what I look like in the gym. Every time
Yeah,
you see me in the gym,
that's
me
like that
standing
is shock. I mean, look at that. I mean, just look at him real life. That's the same shirt. Like you're
Yeah.
wearing that hoodie right now.
Yeah, and if you're walking up to get on a treadmill next to me when there's a bunch of other treadmills, I'm looking at you just like that.
I
don't know where like Kevin's nose is coming from in these ones.
When
all of our noses look fucking
It's
dumb.
that one.
That's
The face-
me. I don't know. It gives all of us.
Oh, who's
chins.
that? Dan McClellan.
Yeah, he looks like
Oh.
the dean of a community college.
Well, I hate to tell you, but he says he's got some Jacob Hansen ones on the way. So.
Oh, good.
Oh yeah, he does.
Now, one of the best not a face I ever saw, like when I don't know how to describe it, like when somebody emotes by not emoting was one day in my early days when I worked at the same company as Chris, and he was the HR manager, and I was just standing, like it was like some kind of downtime, and I was just standing next to Chris bullshitting. We were talking about just whatever random thing, and another employee walked up and said, "So-and-so just tried to stab me in the eye with a plastic fork." And I just watched Chris like just turn and walk away without like any emotion at all, like nothing discernible, like on his face. And like, and that was the thing that said everything of just like, God damn it, this is going to be so much paperwork. And then you left, and like 2 hours you came back. He's like, yeah, that person is fired. And
Yeah, it's pretty mundane and boring.
Because I try to think I try to like imagine like, well, I'm a really stoic guy, but if somebody just came up to me and said like, hey, somebody just tried to assault me, and I would have some reaction, but Chris was like, it's just like somebody saying like, oh, somebody put plastic in the glass recycling. He's like, all right, let me go fix it.
Yeah, most people think I'm like how I am on this podcast at work at all. You guys, I have a poker face. I have a practiced poker face, and I use it playing poker sometimes too.
Work, Chris, like it's enviable. Like I don't have that ability to just like be a different person, but like because your job kind of requires. I remember one day, like it actually made me sad. What you're talking about, where it's like, and it's true because like your HR, where it's like, for legal reasons, you can't have friends at work.
I can't be. If I try to be. If I get too friendly with anybody for too long, before long they're pulling some shenanigans.
Which seems like, wow, that's really hard. Like that would be really, really hard for me. Like, because I couldn't stop myself from joking around and stuff. But
I'll tell you what, it also kind of gives you the angle of understanding how that's the entry point for this crap in the business world. It's the way Stalin moved into power was through HR, and the way this stuff entered into the corporate world is through HR people. And it's no coincidence that me, who went to literary crap, Foucauldian grad school, ended up in HR. I didn't even direct it that way. They kind of just directed me into that way. And my place or wherever I'm at is only lucky that I didn't keep the marching orders or something like that. But I'm just another one of like the millions of different people who entered in through HR, but then most of them come in as ideological as John DeLynn. And then they have certain amounts of power to start pushing people certain ways, or do what Clouding Gay did to get to the top of Harvard and going and canceling and destroying other people, and then keeping helping promote other people, and then keeping tabs on that stuff and calling on favors for who you promote. That's how Stalin got there. And then you totally see 100% across time how an HR person without integrity can be the biggest piece of shit in your company, or other
Yeah.
people can go and start using it and put them up to stuff that's nefarious and stupid and ideological. And,
No, and
like
it's
it's
because it's weird. Like people don't realize, like, because HR, like, oh well, they don't make any decisions, and yet somehow HR is the most powerful unit in the company. You know, like I remember, like
it's part of what's made America, corporate
Yeah.
America, go woke. 100%.
I mean, because like in my mission, because my mission had cars. Like you guys went on carless missions. My mission had cars. Easily, by far, the most powerful position in my mission was the the vehicle motor pool coordinator elder. That guy had all the power, which is, and you're like on the surface, you're like, well, why? That shouldn't be like that. But once you're in there and you realize how precious miles are, and you realize like, oh, that guy, like, he can get whatever he wants, and he did. Like, it was
No, I
totally
saw
a
that
position
shit.
for
I
a
was
Scarface.
Yeah, I saw that shit. I was in Nebraska before I got my visa, so
So you had a little taste of the car thing?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
We didn't have any of that in Mexico, but we also did have complete, like the worst missionaries were in our offices. Partially because like the ones who'd claim they were injured would go to the offices, and usually it was somebody who was lying about how injured they were or not. But there was complete thieves and screw arounds in our offices. And our APs, we had a president who thought that maybe like an outgoing but terrible person of a kid get back on top of stuff if they made him the AP. So almost all of our APs were complete sociopaths.
So one of the guy that, in fact, this all comes rushing back to me because you mentioned about the faking the injury. The guy that I realized, like when I had the realization, like, oh, this is a powerful position. The reason he was the car elder is that he got a blue dot, and a blue dot was somebody who didn't have to ride a bike because of injuries, and he claimed some kind of knee thing. And yet he was always out playing basketball with us on P-Day.
Yep.
You know,
my very first.
And be like, oh no, the doctor says I can play basketball. I just can't ride a bicycle.
I dead serious. I shouldn't have been betting on my mission, but my very first like P-Day, we had to like go meet at these this chapel with a bunch of the other missionaries, and this tiny little short Mexican dude came up to me, and he bet me that he could jump and touch this light fixture that I thought was way too high for him. He bet me, well, it was like 500 pesos, which to me was like $5 at the time. I didn't think that was hardly anything, and I didn't realize like in Mexico that felt like a whole lot more at that time. It was like betting like $30 or something like that. But he bet he could jump and touch it, and I was like, no way, this guy could touch that. And he did it, and I was like, holy crap! I mean, I was just genuinely impressed. Like it was worth a bet because I didn't think that guy could do it. And anyway, so I started talking to him, ask him, well, what do you do? He's like, I'm in the offices because I got a knee injury.
Yep.
And it's just dead serious how it was. I'll be back in a second.
I met some of the biggest fucking morons I've ever met on my mission. Did I ever tell you about the argument I got in with a companion over whether ice was solid or liquid?
I had a companion that I got in a fight with him because he was convinced that BMWs were British and that it stood for British Motor Works. That was a fight.
I don't even know what it stands for.
It stands for Bavarian Motor Works.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
See,
the same guy. Another fight we got into. This was a guy who told me that Kentucky Fried Chicken isn't actually chicken. It is, in fact, a genetically modified blob of that has no feet, beak, and it just has like I don't know. He just there's a whole thing where I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? Of course it's chicken. It has fucking bones, you jackass. But like he believed this whole thing where it's like they just fed these genetically engineered blobs, and that
I had this companion one time who asked me, he's like, "Do you think there's other life out there, like on like alien life?" And I was like, "I think probably. You know, there's the size of the universe and the chances of it, but I don't know." And he was like, "Man, like, do you think there's any nearby?" I was like, "Well, not like in our solar system, because no life that we know of could really live on those planets." And he's like, "Well, how do you know that? Like, why do you think there's not? Maybe there's life on Jupiter." I was like, "Well, Jupiter is a terrible example because, like, I mean, maybe there's life that we don't know about, but Jupiter is not very dense at all, and its gravitational pull is horribly strong. And he's like, how do you know? I was like, because you can look at it. And he's like, you'd be heavier on Jupiter? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, let me put it this way. Can you tell me something about a girl that you don't know? And I was like, well, I could look at her and roughly tell you her gravitational pull because it's based on mass. And man, he was dead convinced. But the other one, this guy was in Nebraska. He was the one. He said something about how we could baptize people, and he's like, we could just baptize them here in the snow. Snow's a liquid, and I was like, well, snow's not a liquid. And he looked at me like I was the biggest fucking moron in the world. He goes out to the balcony, grabs a handful of snow. He's like, well, what's this? What's this in my hand I have right here? And I was like, snow. He's like, huh? And what's snow made of? Like tiny little ice crystals. He's like, oh, and what's ice made out of? It's solid water. And is water a liquid or a solid? It's a liquid. What are you talking about? And man, he would not let it go. He acted like I was the biggest idiot in the world. And I kept trying to explain states of matter to him. And
this is one of those things where it's like, yeah, are you pretending to be dumb or?
No, he was actually just as dumb. Like I told him, I was like you can fucking stand on ice.
Yeah.
It's not like, and he's like, nuh-uh, it might break. And I was like, and when was the last time you broke liquid, you fucking idiot? Fetching idiot. Just kidding. I never said fetch.
I don't know what you guys.
I did
Did
say
you ever
fuck a
swear on
lot.
your mission?
Wait, were you in
Did you
Brazil?
ever drop a swear on your mission?
Where was
So
the
that one
snow
was
in-
on. That was in Nebraska.
Oh, I was
Did you
gonna say,
drop a swear on your mission? Anybody?
Oh, constantly. So I tried not to for the first little while, but I swore a lot as a high schooler anyway. Like I had a whole like cyanide and
I said my
happiness
first
style.
swear word in 10th grade.
Really?
Really?
I had a whole. I had my
Really?
cyanide and happiness style comic that I wrote to deal with one of my shitty companions, and it was just called The Adventures of Elder Jackass.
I didn't swear on the mission. I didn't. But a lot of it got to be in Spanish. I guess I'd learned some Mexican swear words and say them or something like that, but I didn't ever say them in the intention that I meant them or they're supposed to be meant or something like that. But the
What do we got?
mission, man. So I was thinking about talking about. I was talking about making like a master list of stuff that if we were to make a formal challenge to Delin ourselves, like Jonathan Streeter tried to get us to do on his channel a little bit, and we were too rowdy to even like get one out. But if we made like a master list, because if Jacob gets on there because he stuck his foot in his mouth and forgot to put the caveat the first time, and so then he ultimately feels like he has to stick with it or something like that because he takes it up. I think Jacob will take him on some things that I think would be interesting and fun, but then of course it's going to be more stuff that's like, that his angle or his type of thing that he wants to take to the Lynn. But like what stuff, if we really got on, would we do? I want to make like the master list of what stuff we'd really take to him, which we kind of pieced out in a million different little podcasts here, but
what would I bring to
maybe
the
everybody
Lynn?
can start thinking about it and we start making a master list over on the Longhouse.
Can we get John to admit to the metaphysical supernatural claims of the queer theory that he's advocating for, whether or not he knows it? Like that, just like, are you willing to admit that like the notion of being born in the wrong body is a metaphysical supernatural claim?
Well, that even there's that. There's the concept that he does some thought-stopping cliches and sneers at the concept of any sort of Ezra Taft Benson hinting at Marxism type stuff.
Oh yeah. No, yeah.
I would.
Communism is real, Marxism exists, and communist infiltration is a real phenomenon. Like, could we get him to like not even admit to anything that Ezra Taft Benson talked about? Just that, like, do those things exist? Because that's my experience. Is you can't even get people to even admit that such a thing is possible.
I mean, you'd have to come ready with receipts of like, declassified documents and shit like that. Honestly, the thing that I would bring up to him is I I think my least favorite thing is that attitude where he's like, eventually Jacob will get it right, or eventually the church will get it right, or whatever it is.
Oh,
But,
eventually
like,
the Spirit will speak to him, and he'll be a true believer like me.
Yeah, I'd say, like, the arrogance of just being like, yeah, we know exactly what is right, and I don't know. I would like to. I don't know the best way to question him on that, but that would be probably my jumping off point, is that you sound very religious when you say
It's religious
one day
historicist, which
he'll be
Marxists
on,
talk that way too.
and
But
one day he'll be correct like us.
yeah, one day you'll get it all, and beyond just like the Marxism, like the specific Marxism of infiltrating things, but also the Marxism that expresses itself in certain theories that he espouses, and those theories say it directly, that they buy into and use that methodology and don't hide from it. But that goes hand in hand with the historicism of them thinking that there's some promised land or some eye at the end of the history that they're going to get to. And my kind of angle on all of it, just one of the fundamental differences of the whole thing is, just like Thomas South says, there's no utopias, only trade-offs. I kind of just think, like, no matter the arc of history is that it's gonna suck, and with little bits of like some good stuff in the middle of it here and there.
Yeah.
That you know, there's silver linings, but like the way history really goes is like there's a whole bunch of shit in there, and then you get like little bubbles of good times here and there. Or as Mary Harrington says it, on the endless hills of sunny whatever hell, you try to find the little bits of shade.
That Troy Levitt brings up a good point, because that's the thing. Like, I mean, I've mentioned before that, like, if I could ever actually get John DeLynn in the room answering questions, like, one of the questions I would actually like to put to John DeLynn is, should I hate that I'm a straight white male? Why or why not? Because we know that John hates that he's a straight white male. He said so. Should I? Why? Or why not?
Well, one of them I would have put to him a couple years ago, but it's kind of obvious, especially with the topic at hand, is like, are all believing true, real deal Mormons MAGA? Or do you actually think, because I used to get really irritated 2-3 years ago when we're like, my parents are as blue as they come. Like, what are you talking about? And most of the people in the ward I grew up with that I know of are kind of blue. I know there's some MAGA people out there, but I don't know them type stuff. He might, I mean, just even with today, he has to admit that the majority of that church is going blue. And
my mom lived in America for 45 years before she finally got citizenship and voted. And her first vote was for Biden because my ex-Mormon atheist woke sister talked her into it. So there you go. And my mom is as Mormon as they come.
Yeah. A bunch of the stuff we've pieced out, but it's all buried in like a 3-hour long live cast for however long we've been doing this. But I've been wanting to just like kind of make a master list of the stuff that I would rather talk to him about if we ever got the audience that Jacob might be getting, because Jacob will some of the stuff will be cool, some of the other stuff will be like I wish we could come at him with something else. John thinks that if you don't accept trans ideology, you're a conservative fundamentalist. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just kind of the general point, is like that black and whiteness drives me nuts. And not even just that, just, so many of the Mormons that I know of they're basically, I mean, they're completely neoliberal. I mean, it's Mitt Romney-ness, but like, I don't know what to call that. And that's what I thought they were all along for the past 5, 6, 7 years. So like, it would really blow my mind when he just sit there going saying that they're all MAGA or something like that. But what other sort of issue? Just his default ideas of that he thinks he's got like neutral view on stuff. Like he talks about like, do you understand out of academia? The people, we'll even grant him that religious people play with words. They do, but
yeah.
The postmodern, does he understand what postmodernism really is and the problem that it's been, and which side that's coming from? What does he think about the DEI bill of today, and that can he steel man why people might want to pass that bill? said that he can still man it.
I mean, the
What were you
closest you can come to steel manning it is by saying, "Well, marginalized folks have traditionally been marginalized." I don't know if you knew that, and because of that, they need a leg up, or I don't know, some shit like that. But so, Risto here asked if you can articulate the difference between trans and same-sex attraction, and that, I don't know, that seems pretty evident to me that same-sex attraction is just that you're. That seems it's a real thing, like that you'd be attracted to dudes. I don't know what could convince
he
you
might
to
be talking about how and that is one thing I'd want to bring up to him is how he thinks that it's conversion therapy to talk a trans person out of stuff the same it would be conversion therapy of talking to like a gay person out of stuff.
So that's the biggest Martin Bailey.
Yeah, I would challenge that big time.
I love that shit.
But I don't know. Look at I like this little meme right here. Harry Potter movies plus porn, wine, auto masturbator, heroin. There's a guy all tied up to 50 different things. The guy comes up and says, "Oh, this is kind of weird." Oh my God, just let people enjoy things. It's a soy world. We can't beat it. The system is what it does. It's a little bit. Here, these are other posts too. There was a bunch of people posting like, what's your outfit going to be for the 2024 wars? Yeah, Forrest says, what do you disagree with on the left? Or somebody asked like, when does the left go too far? Can you articulate any of that? I mean, I think that's always kind of a good question too. The stuff that I would like to push, and maybe we'll make like some proper video because he declared some while back, but maybe we've just been too snarky and dickheaded ourselves, and maybe we should just do a proper one and then see if we could get anything going from it. And then if we can, we can. If we can't, we can't. We gave it the good old college try. Post the outfit you'll be wearing for the constitutional crisis. It cracks me up. Yeah, I had some videos on puberty blockers and what they do if you get like look at Billboard Chris talking about that sort of stuff. I was going to pull them up.
No, one thing like that doctor in that Mormon group who's like, like he just pulled that line right out. It's like, no, you just pause it. You just pause the puberty. You just pause it. Where it's like, it's one of those things like you have to have not gone to college to understand like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, no, you can't stop time. People grow, they age. Like, just immediately, you're like, what do you mean pause? Like,
well, yeah, and at what point does it stop becoming a pause? Because I don't know. Like, so if you do puberty blockers until you're like 22 and you go off of puberty blockers, do you go through puberty at 22 years old, or is it just forever paused at that point?
It's
not real.
It's
just a pause
absurd button. It's farcical on its face. Yeah, and it's just weird to hear like an ostensibly like professional medical doctor saying that. This is a great meme.
Yeah, Jon Stewart's coming back on Monday nights. You bring out Jon Stewart for the 2024.
Does Conan belong in this group? I thought Conan has always been pretty good about staying out of politics.
He said that really retarded thing about Haiti.
Oh. What did he say? I mean,
it was after
he's been good about staying out of it.
Yeah, he stays out of it pretty well.
When he tiptoes in, it's still normie stuff.
It's pretty like when Trump. It was one of the funniest, most like out of touch things, which is weird for somebody who's written my favorite Simpsons episodes of all time. But
Monorail.
But after Trump like called Haiti a shithole, Conan like went to Haiti and he put a picture of himself like with a big mojito in a beautiful resort being like, this doesn't feel like a shithole to me. And I was like, wait a minute, are you trying to be meta here? Because that might be funny. Like if you're playing the part of some rich retard who didn't realize that you're out of touch.
Yeah, because like Haiti has been a famously destitute and horribly run corrupt nightmare for most of its people for a long time.
Yeah, my sister-in-law's from Haiti. Like she Yeah, my brother's wife. She lived in Haiti until she was like 11 years old, and she was adopted here. And you ask her about the stuff there, and yeah, she ate the mud pies that they gave her.
Oh yeah, the sand.
Yeah.
Yeah, like to fill up, like to stop your kids from crying. They feed them dirt.
Oh wow. This was the LA Times. Says how white and affluent drivers are polluting the air breathed by LA's people of color. And another column saying mocking anti-vaxxers' COVID deaths is ghoulish. Yes, but it may be necessary.
Jesus Christ.
Just I checked that one earlier. That was like
I just read the caption from Libs at TikTok. Good old Libs. I hope that Libs is making a nice living off of that, especially after the New York Times tried to destroy her. Who was that lady?
I can't remember. She has a weird name, but
something like that. Yeah, it's a Jewish name. Being ruled by warlords. No, being ruled by warlords that in suits that let you pretend to elect them. Here's Dan Makelean saying biblical prophets were the original social justice warriors.
Of course they were.
Really.
Jesus that's an old hat now. People saying that stuff. So a transgender adult male got to race in like a 13, 15-year-old girl's track meet.
We made jokes about this like 4 years ago.
Yeah, so now the trans
kept making jokes about
really
trans
real.
age, and they're like, "That's not gonna happen."
Yeah,
I'm like, look, all of the slippery slope stuff so far has happened.
No, like all the stuff that I laughed at Rush Limbaugh and
me too. I was like,
90s.
no, it will not.
Like they said all this stuff in the 90s, and I'm like, oh come on. Like I've said before, it's like because I thought like I'd hear Rush Limbaugh and Hannity talk about the neo-Marxist feminists. I'm like, come on, guys. And then I didn't realize, like, oh no, they were literally just reading the stuff, or their staffers were. Their staffers were reading it for them, and then they would say stuff into the microphone. But yeah, like no, like I definitely had that experience. And then it took me like I was like 20 years behind, where I'm like, oh wait, they really, 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 really do believe this stuff. So like in the 90s, when they're saying like this will lead to people wanting to marry animals. They weren't making that up. They were just reading what was in
it. Wasn't a ridiculous slope. It just happened. Yeah. So there it is. Like there's the actual video of the person competing with 15-year-old girls, an adult professor. But what you gonna worry about? What you worry about? Why you care?
Well, what you do is when you're a responsible adult in that place, you say, no, you actually can't do this. Like there's 2 adults in that picture with her that are like posing with her, and they know it's bullshit. They absolutely know it's bullshit. So one of them has to have a sack and turn around and say, actually, fuck off. You fuck off right now.
Have you followed all the re-education camp stuff that Peterson's having to go through?
I've seen some blurbs.
American psychology thing?
Yeah, the court ruled against him, so he lost it, and so he has to pay at his own accord. But they say it's not a punishment; it's not punitive. He has to pay for social online training, or he could get some.
That's only if he wants to keep his license, which I thought he already said. Fuck it.
Well, yeah, but he's like on principle. He's fighting it.
Oh, he's fighting it out of principle. Okay. Well, all right then. At least he's got the money to fight it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny how they say this isn't punitive, but it's so funny. But they decided he's a baddie.
Punitive for wrong think, like transparently so.
Yeah. Look at this. Have you ever seen that chickens get hypnotized by a straight line?
No.
They really do. And Scott Adams says same method used on CNN viewers. But,
what the? No way! I want to try this on a chicken.
You're gonna go get a chicken just to do
I'm gonna go find a chicken. There's hippies in my town.
Actually, Morgan keeps wanting to get chickens, so maybe I will now.
If you've got a little room, like they seem like they're not too bad. I think most people just don't eat that many eggs.
They said it'll be like a half hour, and you can even like just erase the line, and they'll snap out of it.
That's their solution, Chris. Is that you need to move in next door to some kind of French cook that just needs a lot of egg yolks.
Yeah.
And just the yolks, and then you can keep the whites, and that's the
I don't do
solution.
that so much anymore, but I used to be able to follow me around town by the yolks that I threw out.
Yeah, you discarded yolks. Absolutely.
Once again, Lemmy, don't tell people how I live. All right.
Yolks are the
Did you
best.
hear Biden speaking?
I do love yolks. There's a place down the street from me. Finally, there's a place I can get shakshuka. Have you ever had shakshuka?
No.
Yeah.
It's Israeli. It's Israeli Levantine Arabic food. It's eggs cooked in spicy tomatoes, and it's amazing. Anyway,
All right, listen to this.
We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson.
Oh yeah.
Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit. We'll teach Donald Trump a valuable lesson.
It's the 20th
Wait.
anniversary of Napoleon
let's try-
Dynamite. And I was thinking the other day of like, you remember the old guy in Napoleon Dynamite who was like eating something and like talking in the field or something like that?
Uncle Rico.
It's like-
No, the old guy, Lyle.
Old guy, yeah.
let's try to transcribe this. Start again to transcribe this.
Don't
We'll
mess with
teach
middle.
Donald Trump a valuable lesson.
Gonna
Don't
teach them-
mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit.
Don't mess with
Don't mess with
unfaithful
the-
America.
Donald Trump
Don't mess with the
thinking
women of America,
women in
unless
America
you want to
unless you
get
wanna
the benefit. Which,
Yeah.
if he'd said that coherently, that doesn't make sense.
No.
Like, but
Yeah.
don't mess with America unless I'm going to benefit. But I think it's interesting what more people say here is like the people who have to pretend like it's good and still cheer through it is even more of Emperor's Got No Clothes stuff. Like watch them cheering.
Valuable lesson. Don't mess with the men in America unless you want to get the benefit. We'll teach Donald Trump
Woo!
At this point, his aide's got to be
Definitely.
like saying shit like, "Oh, he's just really drunk. Don't worry about it."
No,
Check
but like
this out.
that is the scariest thing is the people cheering. That is the scariest thing.
This is Christopher Rufo pointing out the Utah Democrats who dressed in black to mourn the passage of the bill abolishing DEI in all state universities. Notice too that all men, that's just in state university. Notice that all the men were sent to the back row.
Came out of the Senate before that passed HB 257 and HB 261, and they're being moved really fast to get to the governor's desk.
I can't imagine, and I've brought this point up too many times tonight, probably, but it's again really funny to me. Wearing in black, acting like somebody has died to mourn the loss of a bill that says "do not discriminate based on race," and then yelling at people about being on the wrong side of history.
Yeah, no, it really is like it is terrifying how like, oh, like how dare you? We're trying to discriminate on the basis of race, identity, and sexuality, and you told us we can't.
Yeah,
Who's buzzing? What
That was
time
my
is it?
phone.
You got some more?
I like this meme. I was just doing memes and these little things.
This is good. This is good.
There's a
There's
harm in
harm.
my cult.
I like that one.
Did you make that one?
No.
Oh, I
don't
thought
remember
I thought that was you. That
No.
that's got your ethos, whatever the word is.
It's got my crappy skills going on.
No, just the wording.
made
The
it.
wording is very you. There's a harm in my
There's a
cult.
harm in my cult. I made this one. You totally flicker the bean. The bean is super good.
I'm just super glad that you feel the liberation and freedom to insert several fingers at once into your damp vagina.
This one came from. We always got to show one from Sister Higdon. I do have the autistic hero of the week. If you want to see another autistic hero,
I love the autistic heroes.
Let me find it for a second. Talk amongst yourselves. Did you guys see the flooding in California?
San Diego, yeah. No, my boss is leaving tonight to go on vacation to San Diego, and he's like, I'm kind of wondering if there will be a San Diego when I get there.
Man,
It's
also
crazy
I guess Civil War's happening.
Here's your autistic hero of the week.
Now, in order to understand the comments that Sneeko made, we have to understand who Sneeko is as a person. Now, I've never.
Sneeko.
And he only eats once a day. Another thing
Sneeko
that's really,
challenged this kid.
because you know who he is? He is a fascinating fellow who I had him on the podcast. He's like the smiliest assassin, thick glasses, only eats pizza and pasta, and he only eats once a day. Another thing that's really unusual about you is your diet.
Yes.
You're famous for eating pasta and homemade pizza and only eating once a day.
Every night I eat like this. So how this started was I've been cutting
this
weight.
kid is a world-class jiu-jitsu fighter who only spends all day, every day doing jiu-jitsu and eats one pizza a night. and Sneeko challenged him to a fight.
Who's Sneeko? I don't know Sneeko.
Sneeko is like
he does the rounds with Destiny and stuff. He's like
he converted
seems
Muslim. He
dumb.
kind of does like red pill men stuff of like you chicks don't know type stuff. You're gonna cheat on that guy, but he don't. He's kind of just doing it as a grift a little bit, and real huge YouTube channel. But he challenged this autistic kid to a fight. And the kid said, okay.
It's called an Aoki lock. It's a modified heel hook, but
Jiu-jitsu is for autistic people.
what I think a master
what?
of jiu-jitsu is somebody
Is he
that
joking?
inspires another generation.
Jiu-jitsu, I swear, this is why I like striking. This is a competition where it's an art, and it's an art form, and I learned from the master. He looks like Mark Zuckerberg. He shouldn't be winning.
So that's like a master to student. He's an idol of mine for being
It's like a master to the student. This is a leg heel lock. He's saying he would make me tap. He probably would.
That right there was Mikey Musumeci, a 5-time jiu-jitsu world champion. He holds multiple world records and is regarded as one of the best grapplers in the world. For those of you who are new to Musumeci, he's described as a bit of a psychopath. He has insane focus and drive, training about 12 hours a day, breaking people's kneecaps in competition because they don't tap, goes home, cooks a pizza, eats it, and then just repeats forever.
And jiu-jitsu favors an analytical approach. You analyze positions and analyze possible counters and traps that you can set. That's why I love guys like Mikey Musumeci, because you know who he is?
So Sneeko.
Okay, so this guy is autistic jiu-jitsu nerd.
He's super autistic.
He's challenged by cool kid.
And he's tiny because he just eats one pizza a day.
One homemade pizza a day.
One homemade pizza a day. But if you listen to him talk, if you go look the guy up, he's just always like, I talk jiu-jitsu and I eat a pizza. I talk jiu-jitsu and I eat a pizza. That's when
He's like, unless you own a pizza restaurant, your pizza sucks.
I'm sure he eats sucky pizza. Yeah.
Homemade pizza is shit.
Yeah. I'm sure that he doesn't do it.
Hair.
And all these stupid stipulations he knows will never happen. Typical bully. They talk and they talk beyond the safety of their screen, or even in the bathroom, recklessly, and they never face consequences. There's so many people out there like him.
One condition. I'm not getting paid. You're a world champion, and this was my first time ever training. I want to speak to Mark Zuckerberg for an hour. Bring that part up. Don't say that's a bunch of stipulations.
This is what Delin's going to pull on.
So he starts pulling
on Jacob Hansen. He put a stipulation that if he gets 1 hour if that guy can get Zuckerberg to talk on his channel for 1 hour, then he will fight him.
What up,
way out of it.
Yeah. So did he actually get him into the ring? I want to see that.
He backed out saying you got to give me 1 hour of Zuckerberg and I'll get
Oh, so he actually finished.
He actually backed out.
Well, go to hell forever, you dork.
Yeah. But that's Autistic Hero of the Week.
Nice.
You should look up that guy. He's an interesting weird dude.
Autistic Hero of the Week.
Yeah, I love this
dudes
segment.
who get over obsessed with stuff. That's our Autistic Heroes of the Week. It's become a segment on the show. Autistic Hero of the Week.
Did you ever hear about that crazy guy who built an entire operating system entirely by himself? He's not really a hero, though. He was crazy, though. He thought that God was talking to him.
Do you guys watch this? I mean, you remember we were talking about the fish cheater?
Yeah.
Count Dankula has this fish cheater. I don't think this was the guy who was adding weights to stuff. This is a
different fish cheater?
It might be the same guy or something.
How
But it's
else
not
do you
adding weight.
cheat?
Dude, I bet you there's so many ways to cheat.
I mean, listen to the whole story. I'm not going to go into it here, but I'm just recommending everybody listen to the
I'm
Fish
gonna
Cheater.
listen to this.
Listen to the Fish Cheater on Count Dankula. I'll share you guys in the both in the message and here, because we're just wrapping up and sharing a couple things. That's all we do. Here you go. It's now in the group chat. I think, y'all.
Where's the Charlie dog?
He's right down beneath me. It being 25 years of Napoleon Dynamite, just so you guys know, here's another weird Chris Hanna thing. I went to high school with this
20
who was
years.
the bully in Napoleon Dynamite. And I played on the football team with him, and I actually
they're giving away
a speech about him on his last day.
Wow.
Clutch truck.
The clutch truck.
The bully in Napoleon Dynamite.
The clutch truck.
Wow.
Boris Stumpiness again.
I need to watch that again. I haven't seen that movie since 2004. I need to watch it again.
It was a pretty big deal here.
I bet.
A lot of people hated it, and I was like, if you think Portlandia is good, that has to be good. What you guys just don't understand is that it's making fun of kind of real people out in the world.
Yeah.
And until you've gone on a Mormon mission and found out that 50% of the guys were from Idaho and kind of that guy, and then you were suddenly stuck with them for 2 months, you will get this movie. You know, I was not prepared for Napoleon Dynamite guys when I went to the mission field. And it was like 50% Napoleon Dynamite guys. That is a real ratio I'd give it. Like right about 50% of them out there were Napoleon Dynamite guys. We actually had like a bunch of weird feminist stuff too, but I won't share any of that yet. We can say
there's another
weird.
weird.
Jared shared a porta potty crap video, and Jared finished a book on polyamory.
That was funny.
Terrible.
I like getting the cliff notes from you as you read that book.
Oh man, it was like so for a second I was like, okay, maybe this will change my perspective. You know, maybe she's got some hard arguments for why polyamory is like actually workable and good. And it's not even just polyamory, it's she opened her marriage, right? And she has a weird cuck husband who wants who gets off on her getting fucked. And so I'm waiting. The closer I get to the end of this book, I'm waiting for the upswing. She's talked about all the bad stuff. Eventually, she's going to talk about how great it is and how she figured out the bad stuff. No, she never does. She just kind of goes, yep. And it ends with her getting dumped by one of her boyfriends and sobbing and having a mental breakdown. And then her husband comforts her.
I like it that it's shaping up that now on the podcast we're doing a autistic minute, and then Jared reads terrible, horrible, degenerate book minute. Flip has his wine and spirits minute. I have my autistic hero of the week minute, and Jared has his degenerate reading.
Morgan's gonna leave me soon. Every now I just get a book suggestion that looks so fucking stupid.
My Audible account.
She put that in the group chat, just a snap of that stupid fucking book. She's like, "What the fuck?"
That's funny. Charlie, come here. Charlie's starting to figure out this time frame too. I swear he gets it. Like he just barely walked up now because he's like, "Hey, motherfucker! Hey, come here, come here!
Surprise, motherfucker!
Surprise!" All right, y'all. Well, thanks for chilling and hanging, and it's about time to go walk this little poodle. And I hope Jacob gets on John Lynn, and maybe John Lynn learns a lesson or two or something.
That'd be pretty great.
Or maybe he says you have to get Mark Zuckerberg on my show first.
He won't do it, but it'd be pretty great if he did.
Yeah.
Sorry if you got to go there.
Anything else to add before?
Nah.
Bye bye, Charlie dog.
See you, suckers. All righty. Have a good one, y'all.
See ya.
Thanks for hanging, everybody out there.